Hi, you guys. It's MJ from I UNPLUG. How are you? How are you? How are you? I'm a professional singer. I'm not, obviously. So I was writing, and this is what came through: separation versus unity, fear versus love. Good morning, Karen. How are you? And then I put like around that duality. And then as I was writing the title on the share, I was like, duality. And like, even the fact of when we like speak ideas or speak words, we're being dualistic, you could say. Even just the fact that we're like living in form, we have duality. And like, in a way, you're like, why the duality is, it's like having this super negative aspect around the ego. You know, people are like, the ego is so bad. I'm like, well, is it though? Or is it just the way we use it? Is it just the way we perceive it? Do you know what I mean? Oh, yeah. Hey, Divine Sight. Hi, Miss Kate. And now I'm obviously always noodling from my own perspective here. But as far as I'm aware, like and some of you might be able to reflect back to me, because you guys know I don't really like watch or listen to anything else except for the little bit of astrology and a bit of tarot for entertainment purposes. Because reading or watching tarot, I guess that's helping me learn, because I'm also getting into studying that stuff. But I'm like, I seem to have or recall this sense memory of people in like maybe academic or maybe spiritual circles talking about duality as like a negative thing, like the dualistic world. Does that make sense to people, or am I way off on this one? I'm not sure. I'm not even 100% sure. Well, in anything. So there's like, so I've got it written down, guys. Don't worry. Archetypes. Anywho, okay, so separation versus unity. Any versus is a separation, right? So you can't even, and then I've got unity and duality right side by side. So I'm like, wait a minute, like, what are we really talking about here when we're talking about unity? Because duality is within it, the duality construct. Right and wrong, good and bad, the divisive nature. Right. Okay, thank you. Noodling away with me. Of course, it has to do with the energetic. It's to do with our heart space. It's like there's a whole bunch real relevant stuff, literally, of just being in your feeling center versus not. You know, how do we make this stuff as simple as possible? Are you feeling right now, or are you thinking right now? Feeling, you know? And because we all know we got trained to think real good, right? We all, there again, this is part of being, having this awareness of the emotion, and then having the right. And but that is the social condition, Karen. And this is where, and again, for the empath who do feel a lot, we can then go beating ourselves up over every little thing, because of course we all think too much. It's you know, so we don't want to, it's these polarized swings of not beating ourselves up over it, and yet quietening our mind is the absolute discipline here, because it's through quieting the mind and allowing our emotions to continue to heal the way they need to heal, the waves, the sadness, the pain, the da. That's how we open up the mental capacity to have more inspired thought that you just know and feel is of a higher vibration. And of course, it has to do with how it feels. It has to do with, where is it coming from? How does it feel to noodle, to say this, am I coming from a place of judgment? So duality construct is absolutely to do with separation consciousness and blame and attack. Because here's the thing about blame and attack: there's a defensive nature to it, because what are we defending against? We're defending against feeling our wounds. We're defending against owning our darkness. We're defending against, right? So if we're perpetually pushing back against someone, saying that can't be true, you couldn't be look at you right now. If we're just doing that, then usually we're not in unity. which all of us can say. That's why we get to these points, because we've all been in those moments of relationship where we're all freaking out, acting out, reactive. Our pain body's been triggered. But I'm acutely, increasingly aware of an empath, highly sensitive community rising, coming together, because even with all of us reading the Eckhart Tolle and all of this wonderful evolution of law of attraction and spiritual stuff, I think empaths in these last few years in particular more so have been absolutely abused and twisted, and that's the shit that's been really tricky to super face it down, because that's the denial wound, the abandonment wound, the rejection wounds, the self and the betrayal. So, of course we've been facing those wounds of betrayal, and hence now that we're rising out of the depths of those greater depths, we're starting to see the purpose of that function more clearly, because it's helping us to step into our power, with the awarenesses that we have, with the love that we have, and the benevolence we have. It's just a really weird construct that people in their wounding, they're like, they push away. And again, most of us can admit that is the truth, because we know that when we were more in our shadow self, when we were more in our darker state of blindedness, right? Ooh, oh, and that Tower card is Christ and Buddha. Interesting. Hi, Susanna. Hi, Violet. Oh, Violet Melon. When I said archetypes, got you. Mm-hmm. I literally said mm-hmm and then looked down. Mission is looking awesome. In New York Times articles on satanic ritual abuse. Oh, did you know? Oh, did you know? In the New York Times, huh? Interesting. Was it calling people out? Because you guys know I don't read the newspapers. I only hear out of like different portals of creation that there's other news other than Ultra Love TV happening in the world. What? Yeah. I know. It's this whole week has been so weird. I'm not gonna lie. Like, I do weirdly feel like a different person, but I'm like, but I know I'm still MJ from Ultra Love TV. But it's all shifting and moving really quickly, and I'm just chuffed. Actually, I have no choice but to call people out using archetype name. So it just is what it is for me, I guess. But I hear what you're saying, MJ. Thank you for helping keep things in perspective. Yeah, for sure, Chica, and I appreciate you saying that, because it's all helping us find clarity, and it's all I mean, in fairness as well, there's one thing going around unconsciously from a place of separation, from a place of thinking all of these things are separate, calling people out, i.e. the witch hunts, the Inquisition. And there's a difference though, and there again, our persecutors might not agree with what I'm saying, but when you're standing in your love and you're saying, I see you, as in I see your lies, that's not quite the same as you're fucking lying. I don't know what I'm saying, but I feel what I'm saying as far as. Oh, fifth. Okay. So, and that's relevant if there's Karen or other people around. So there it is again, the headache. That's come up 3 times now between just random people and clients, and now fifth is saying it as well. The headache, I feel, is another pressurized push, because it's been super like almost like a coffee withdrawal headache, quite pressurized. Violet Men, nice reflection. It is a weird in between the energy. Yeah, for sure. Like, are my feet on the ground? I'm not sure. Yep, I'm gonna check. Like, I have to check if my feet are on the ground, kind of thing. Like, what is that? 2 months of tension on my forehead. I know, it's despicable behavior, really. This is where it's we can continue to discern our point of attraction, our discerning our command. But I know I also am with you with regards to like we don't. It's not like one. There isn't some agenda. It's not for our personal like will that we're up here doing this. You know what I mean? And so there is a divine will acting through us. So I just trust that. Like I don't like as in I literally. It's like if I feel the resonant connection, that is all. That's what I trust. I'm not particularly concerned about like what everybody is talking about. It's like me being like we I don't know, if we res. If we don't, we don't. Honestly, what you do for a job, what color your skin is, like the size of your body, the gender, the blah blah blah, all of these divisive things that would that the society and our cultural imprinting would have us believe makes us so fucking different that we can't get along or that we should hate each other. That is ultimately what we're healing. We're healing this weird angle of inferiority and superiority based on conditional constructs, based on and that's what essentially for a lot of us compassionates, that was part of like the original site was seeing slavery and have feeling the pain of it and just being like what the fuck, like why did that happen, and like right. And so over it's not like these ideas that I'm sharing here just popped into my head out of nowhere. Again, this is tracing back to my years at university in a Canadian scholarship program, talking about abstract thought, and at the same time learning about political theory, women's studies theory. You know, where does the language come from? How did we get to this point? Who are the people radically trying to make change? And so it's like, and that's where it's really interesting to me. People who might know me for short periods of time and just be like, "Whoa, you're just so like bouncy and." Or too excitable, like you're so annoying, or the flip of like you're just super duper emotional. And I'm like, okay, it's just because you've been conditioned to not allow emotion. All of society, we've all been conditioned to like if you cry, something's wrong, and if you're aggressive, you're scary and violent. So we've all been conditioned to shame ourselves for having emotion, and thus we unconsciously shame other people for having emotion. And what I'm like over and over again trying to get through to us is like it's good for us. We're meant to feel emotion on the regular, not just when bad things happen. We're just meant to feel emotion. And it's really, truly in feeling that emotion that we are more of that regenesis essence in the self. And that's something, again, it's not for most of us as empaths. That's what I mean about how we get at each other is that we've never not been emotional. We've never not, and or we were shut down until we couldn't be shut down anymore. That's usually often when we have awakening experiences. And or life starts to hit up against us, everything starts to spin out of our control, and then we start to fall through the gate, and we're forced to take leaps, and or we're forced to just face the music and fall until we hit rock bottom. But the point of the self responsibility stuff is usually purely to do with like your thoughts, your feels, your actions, your thoughts, your feelings, your actions. And it's not about and this is the polarity of the law of attraction community where we're like think happy thoughts and you're creating what you're thinking, you're creating what you're thinking. At the same time, if you're creating stuff that you don't like, it's not about the thinking. If you're thinking positive thoughts, there's something else going on. And this is where I talk about the emotional storms, because I don't think most people are going deep enough into their emotional body to actually uproot the causal imprint of why they're creating the shit in the first place. And so people just give up. People just default back into their old world and their old programming because they're like, oh, well, I fucked it. I'm not thinking strong enough. And I'm like, no, but you're not going deep enough into your energy field to actually touch against the wound that is creating the issue in the first place. Because if we're in a situation, we're there, which means we created that, which means our vibration was always and was always carrying, and until we effectively bottom out with that energy, will always carry. But the ownership of all that we are and all that we create is absolutely, fundamentally, without a doubt, the thing. We have to be able to do that in our field. And this is what I mean about the polarity of like, we have to be able to accept all the haters and all the corruptors as much as one another. Doesn't mean we have to go hang out and sing Kumbaya. I say this, right? We don't have to go hang out. We can just in our heart space be like, fine, I allow you to exist. That is all. And I'm not going to try to, I'm not going to disrespect. That's all. No, but I am I guess, increasingly aware. Um, what was I saying? Brain fart. Just literally, like, just escaped my mind. I was thinking about something and then it went away. Oh, you are, Karen. Well, and you just have to keep. And there's something as well about that, and there is perpetual discernment about our. See, we're touching up again that stuff. How we're addicted to the drama of it, and we're addicted to the being in the pain of it, and that has to do with the victimhood consciousness, right? That's to do with the martyr, the da da da. And in fairness, again, it's these is subtle stuff because it's not about beating ourselves up. So there, you know what I mean? It's like leaning in to even us being like the victim or the martyr and being like, oh, bless you, you know, and just keep loving the totality of the self, the totality of that agenda. Do not respond to love. No. So yeah, thanks, Seth, for re-putting that, whatever. It's because it's like, but this is something like some of you have brought to my attention that I noodled with, but I don't talk about it a lot. But like the AI and the bots and even a lot of people in like different alternative communities and stuff that actually aren't connected. Like it's like the celebrity culture of having to sell your soul to like be a star or whatever. That concept, that aspect of the shadow underbelly of a glamorized picture of humanity that we're trying to project. And then I'm thinking, yeah, about this is something to do with disclosure, aliens, like the grays I'm hearing. And again, I know I don't talk about this a lot, you guys, but I think a lot of us here are fairly open-minded to that. And I do actually like, I do believe that's a reality for people. I've never had direct contact with what people would call aliens, but I am. And this is the stuff that I find weirder, like to talk about. But I am aware of like being on the Galactic Council and having like, there's a lot of us. It's like in Star Wars or one of those shows where you just have this massive congregation of galactic beings that are sitting in circle or sitting in congregation. And it's like, maybe you could say it's an aspect of your higher self, or it is your higher self hanging out and being like, assisting our own self down here, if that makes sense to you guys. So, and then what I'm thinking about is the people who have made contact with the grays, what people call the grays. And there's also the Dracos and the Anunnaki and the people who talk about the reptilians. Now, I do interpret this stuff a little bit different. However, I do believe that the grays exist in a sense. And I bless the grays. The grays, again, frequent in a belt, a little bit like Gollum. The grays are working for a controller system. That's why a lot of people have the memory of the grays like doing experiments on humanity, because they're working for some different types of characters in our galaxy, like in our universe. Now, increasingly, more and more people are talking about disclosure. More and more people are talking about these beings. And it really doesn't matter whether they're, I come in peace or I come in love and light or whatever. We've been coexisting forever. And it has to do with where the earth herself is vibrating. When the earth goes into the lower dimensional realms of this universe or galaxy, she attracts the vibration of that realm, or that belt, you could say, of her cycles. So there's like, the way I see it are these sort of slightly like, I don't know, like underworldy energies that like they embed themselves. They kind of get sucked into her vortex and then embed themselves. And now we're uncovering that embedded reality. It's a little bit more weird and wild than we ever got programmed to believe because of this controller system that's trying to pretend like none of this other stuff exists to keep humanity in the darkness. But the star beings are like because we respond the call, because we've had people before us also be on this awakening journey on earth, and so we like hear about it too. We're like, let's all go for the party. Right, chic. So yeah, I think when we get to, and because of our beingness and our essence, similar to the grays but different, when the earth gets to a certain point in her field where she reaches a certain level of vibration, then other beings from the galaxy and the universe can enjoy the ride. There's a battle in essence, just because it's that time in our galactic cycle for the controller energy and certain dark forces, including the grays. The grays have a base on the moon. So it's more about like just letting go, because once we move into, and we are now in essence moving into these higher realms of frequential energies, we higher energies, that's mainly what I'm saying here, is that is they just can't, they're like and then they can't hook into earth anymore once she moves into that binary system, which is now essentially, hence Aquarian age, blah, 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 blah. The weirdest thing, and I guess it's what's helping me have increasing detachment about it all, is that it is an infinite cycle. I don't know why I feel this. It's like, the infinity symbol, that's the trajectory of Earth in this binary solar system. And when she gets close into that center point of the like infinity symbol is when she's in the galactic center, which means she's coming to the 0 point of her journey, i.e. the meeting point of the two of the infinity belt. Hence, like, all these symbols remind us of like we are the infinite. Oh, by the way, hi Paul. You guys, MC Nook is my friend Paul from Louisiana, Lafayette. And he's writing a hip hop book, which Ultra Love is helping him to edit and publish. So I'm pretty excited about that. I'm excited to get stuck into the work as well. Sweet CC for sure. And like, sometimes I think in our 3D mind, we think it's like this fixed point. I don't really believe that. I feel like we're always in this like, you get me, right? Chartreuse. I also astral project into this weird place with Chartreuse illuminated beings. I don't know what Chartreuse is. I'm curious. Neutral. I get you. I had a trippy day, like trippy. Yeah. I heard this summer as well. It's increasing the serendipity, or not the serendipity. It's increasing the, what's the word? Synchronicity. So the synchronicities are speeding up. We appear as a distant star. We're growing baby suns. There are still low dimensional beings. Cosmic spiral. Serendipitous synchronicities. Those are also good words, aren't they? She's about to go into the center of the earth for 3 days. And is that now? This is what I respect about the intuish. And like, the more of us who drop into pure intuish, it's like it can alliteration, Chris. Alliteration, you clever. The serpent. The underworld is on our plane. We are born ancient in the timeless womb to womb love cycle. Hmm. Do you see I just got like a kind of resonance of like, do you see how like via the infinite we can reflect back essences of the infinite, which helps us all to unlock these like infinity codes versus the fear codes, the enslavement codes, which we're it's polarity and paradox because we're actually facing and burning through them. All these emotional storms I talk about in truth are the walls of the paradigm, are the imbalanced structures of the old paradigm, control and domination. So all the pain that we're like having to experience and move through these gates of hell, the gates are of hell are the structures of that which we call the patriarchy. I prefer not to really use that word anymore because it feels divisive to me, but it's the controller system. Um, so yeah, when I say it like that, so yeah, I never imagined I'd be having this kind of conversation. I'm like, nothing I say here I read in a book. There's nothing planned here ever. It's pure heart love vibes and a little bit of intellectual noodling with what is life. Like, what the fuck is happening right now? Does anyone know? I don't think so. Seven Circles of Hell. Tell me more about that. I don't know. Sweet Cece is tripping after having a trippy, trippy day. I literally had that specific message today. Yeah. Well, I could feel that though, Fifth, as you shared that is the sharings, the intuitive like sharings and messages that come through. They can be very specific. I want to say it's like the vision of the Galactic Council that I see. Which I'm like, I don't know, was that imprinted on me by a movie or is that legit true? And I'm like, when I see myself, I'm like, I'm pretty sure that's me. So I'm pretty sure that's a true memory inside me because I feel a resonance in my heart space. And I know that I know her because it's me. Just like in my imagination slash imagine. Oh yeah, I think I've talked about this. My imagination slash memory of like yeah, of other types of situations, not off in the cosmos, but here on planet Earth. And then other memory. I have memory of like having a plasticine existence in obviously some would it be two-dimensional reality? Like, like when Homer from The Simpsons turns into the weird like plasticine character in 3D reality. I had a dream, but because it's such a like like a real dream that I will never forget. I had I went to a Bridget Nielsen workshop, like a 2-day workshop in Amsterdam, and her and Gabe Solomon were there, and they were talking about the hybrid children and more of this kind of stuff. But he resonated, Gabe, the man of the two who hosted this retreat. He I think I randomly said that. I was like, okay, well, I have like this weird memory of like a plasticine world, and there were mushroom houses, and like literally like a gnome land. And then Gabe was like, oh yeah, me too. I've been there. I've been to that dimension. I'm like, right, okay, things are starting to make more sense now. Again, people talk about multidimensionality as places. But when you think about it, the truth is there are no places outside of the self. So everything that you think, everything that you imagine, everything of your memory, all of your dreams, all of your blah 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 is an aspect of the totality of the beingness that you are. There's no separation. So this is another interesting leap to make when people talk about past life. People think past life is of a different time, which of course we can stretch our mind. We know that to be true in a certain context. However, in unity perspective, there is no time. So the truth is, the reason we have to face and see and own this is now, right? That just the only reason things are happening in the now is because we've already been there. Whether or not we're wearing these modern clothes, or if you were to imagine yourself wearing a different outfit of a different time, it would have been the same energetic imprint. And that's what I mean about for a lot of us, we are aware that in a karmic life cycle, a lot of us never got beyond this point. Because in every other karmic life cycle on this planet specifically, we got killed, a lot of us. Or because we're all owning our wholeness of responsibility, we killed ourselves. We chose to we chose by the divine will to be taken out in every lifetime, sometimes really brutally as well, you know? Hi, Capitular. Um, Thank you for the donation, vibrashe. I also like this is like a weird question, but I'm like, I don't think you like you know how sometimes YouTube would be like revenue £28, and I'm having a feeling because you guys are like sending in these donations, but like I never get them, but I should probably, right? And there must be a way to like to like allow the dollar the pound signs that YouTube says that my YouTube channel is creating, and then but then there's all this weird stuff about how to connect my personal business account to YouTube. So YouTube is just as in over the last few months there's been actual like revenue there, like £3 or £25 or something, but like none of that money is like coming to me personally. Do you know? And then now that's making me be like, I should sort that out because I'm pretty sure that's meant to like again, this is my business. An extra 30 quid a month would be fantastic. It'd be fantastic, you guys. So I'm like, it's one of those little noodly things of like, I really need to figure out how to connect my account to PayPal. Yeah, PayPal works as well. I appreciate that. But it's really nice when you guys donate here because then everyone gets to see a donation. This time they're not allowed to steal our knowledge. That's right. No, we're not letting it happen, right? Yeah, divine sight. Like I'm certain I already went through all this, set up the account, put the tax details and all that shit. Um, but now it's been like 3 months and I'm like, no, I'm still not getting any of the money that YouTube claims I'm earning now. Cause you do all that, which I actually find really annoying. So I do apologize, but you monetize your videos. So when you press when you get to a certain point, you can monetize. And then I was like, oh, wow. And then, yeah. And annoyingly, of course, the monetization, once you monetize your videos, they put adverts on them. But those adverts are like, what's the word? Well, yeah, I don't know. I don't know exactly how it works, but you can make a bit of extra dosh, and yet here I am, like the extra dosh would be so freaking useful, except YouTube, the money is just stuck in my computer. I'm like, how do I get it into my bank account? And they're like, you've already set up an account and blah, blah, blah. Oh, thanks, Capitular. Molly at altalove.com. Or I think there's description box below, my friend. In the description box below, you can send to altalove. I don't know what's that, .me PayPal or whatever. Or but my email accounts for PayPal are just Molly at altalove or teamlove at altalove.com. Does it? I do know that, Susanna. I do have my dad is one of them actually, but like people don't like PayPal. People don't trust it. I don't trust the banks. Actually, that's a lie in a sense. I don't believe in the banks. I don't believe that the construct of the bank has the goodness of people as their main intention. That I'll be straight about. However, again, noodling, it's like I think for the most part, people working in banks are decent people. I really do. Possibly a little blind to the corruption of the organization that they're working for, but still innocent and relatively good people. It's like most people going to churches and stuff. Our churches are our ultimate controller energy harnesses contraption. So everyone shuffling along to going into these mosques and churches and temples and stuff are actually having their energy siphoned from them through their good intention to pray to their Lord. But the Lord isn't going to be found in the temple. The Lord is in their heart. So there again, we want to maintain. Now, MC, I would say, Paul, that you probably have some pretty nice places of worship Now, the reason I'm distinguishing between the two is that I think there are still sacred sites and or structures that are built in a simpler time. I'm not so versus these big fucking constructed cathedrals, which would have run the show. A place like where you live might have one of those just fairly simple white stucco buildings where you go and worship. And energetically, I just get a sense that they're not as dense. And so people congregating in smaller towns to come together and worship is a different, there wouldn't be as much energy harnessing there. So, Paul, in fairness, you've said you've just stopped going to church, which is fair, but I don't get the impression, my intuition, anywho, the intuition, pardon me, my intuition doesn't get the impression, Paul, that your energy would be harnessed from the church that you were going to. So I wouldn't worry. And so based on this conversation, if for some reason there's events or things going on in your church, then I wouldn't worry about it, you know. I'd still go because I bet you meet some nice people there as well. Music pastors. Oh, interesting. Yeah, it can feel like that, I'm afraid. Oftentimes, the more we in this community kind of have a sense of breaking free. One of the last like churchy things I went to, I just remember all everyone would be like, "Everyone, close your eyes, put your hands up if you need forgiveness from Jesus." And I didn't put my hand out because I was already doing this work at this point, and I'm like, I think I can just like forgive myself. Like I think that's what I have to keep doing, and I didn't put my hand up. And all these young enthusiastic Christian people were like saying that everyone is closing their eyes, but then when I didn't put my hand up, one of them came over to me. So I was like, "So you weren't closing your eyes, so you were actually looking at everybody." And then they centered me out and were like, "Do you feel connected to Jesus? Do you feel like you're actually able to forgive?" And and I was just sat there feeling incredibly uncomfortable being put on the spot, not in resonance with these people, and then feeling judged, feeling judged for the fact that like I didn't jump on the bandwagon where everybody else was there saying, "Yeah, I need to meet Jesus so he can absolve me of my sins," right? So it's an interesting, but that was way back, you guys. This was like gosh, it probably was like 2007, 2006, 2007, right before I started practicing yoga like every day. And even when I was practicing yoga every day in 2007 in Liverpool, I kind of meeting a fellow student for a coffee, and she was like, "Yoga?" She was like, "Isn't that some kind of cult?" She was Norwegian. Beautiful girl, actually, an amazing dancer, and performer. But as it turns out, I'm sure 5 or 6 years later, she ended up doing her yoga training herself, as many dancers and performers do, because the entertainment industry is fucking soul destroying for the most part and can be absolutely physically damaging and exhausting. So a lot of us in various so many people, whether you're coming from the corporate rat race or you're coming from it's the enslavement soul destroying industry of entertainment and what have you, then you end up doing some kind of healing massage therapy or yoga work because it's better than the other. Even if you're taking a big cut financially, most people are happier just living a simple life where they don't have to be prostituting themselves essentially. And yeah, I know that people don't necessarily think it looks like that, but to me it's walking a fine line. Because when any of us as humans have to do something that goes against our heart, we're having to sell off a bit of our soul. And this is what is so corrupted about the system. People make excuses day in, day out about living in hatred with their self, about living a life that they hatred. Oh, because I need money to survive. And I'm like, well, if we all keep making that fucking excuse, we're not going to get anywhere. We need to rise above that belief system. Oh, I need money. Oh, I need money to do this. I need money to do that. And that's exactly what they want us all to believe. And it's not fucking true. I know how much can be done with virtually nothing. And I know how much can be done when you surrender your will to the divine. If we just get out of our head and trust our heart, it's all fine. It all works out. But we have to not be blinded by the idea that living in our heart is some fantasy. That the world, that the 3D world bombarded and programmed into our consciousness. The fantasy of our heart is a lot simpler than what we've been programmed to believe we want. Now, most of us who are in tune, we don't have those desires running anymore. Hey, Jace. Jace Jacobs, jar of poetry. Oh, yeah, love makes me rise. I know, love does rise us all, and that's the power of the love we have in our heart, is like, just cry until you can't cry no more, and then even in the depth of your own pain and darkness, be absolved. Let yourself love yourself in the darkness. That means you can love other people in the darkness, and that way we cannot sit there in self-righteousness when other people feel. That's been a big part of my experience. People that have considered themselves close to me, or in a tight kind of intimate close relationship, not intimate like sexual relationships necessarily, but like people who either, friends, or people who are kind of helping out or whatever. But it often shifts when we're really wanting to continue to reach for more and be more loving. And people love feeling all that love, except when it comes to them having to deal with their lives. um I don't know how, I just always get back into this like emotional abuse stuff, because, and again, that's, going right back to the beginning of this conversation. I think somebody mentioned this, or maybe it came out of me, or a private chat, but like this, um just the shame around feeling these emotions, and yet the world is super messed up. So I just lost my train of thought, by the way. Just so you guys know. I go for food. Cappuccino, how come? Oh. Yeah. Here's the thing. Isn't it interesting? Because I'll just noodle with things. So because I'm different. And it's interesting to me, right? That we have these expressions in our world, like conformity, or like you gotta fit in to belong. And then I'm like, and then that expression of like, I'm just too different. I'm like, see, isn't that it's such a true statement. And yet the where it comes from is such a fucked up, insane thing, because people have been ostracized. People have been made to feel not belonging, unworthy. All of these horrible, shameful things people have been made to feel for not fitting in, for being too different. And I'm like, oh my God, we're all fucking different. Like every single one of us is completely unique. Completely unique. Every single one of us is completely unique. And so none of us could, how that is like a weird paradoxical statement. None of us could ever be too different, because we're all fucking different. And at the same time, this weird construct of us thinking that we're all supposed to step in line and be the same as each other, that's the insanity. That's the insanity of like the dark forces in Star Wars. That's us all stepping into a line and becoming stormtroopers. It's breaking free from a restricted, limited, oppressive job, and being balls out bold about the person you are and who the person you desire and deserve to be. That is freedom. That's like claiming your Jedi. Claiming your, or I guess they're all Jedis, but claiming your Yoda vibrashe, Jedi mastery, skillfulness, or Luke Skywalker, or any of those people, or Layla. Is that her name? Leia, Princess Leia. Um, so yeah, be like a Jedi, you guys. Just be like a Jedi. Oh yeah, Ren, she's cool too. And I really dig on her. Like, just, this is why I clearly realize, like, I don't think I'm cut out for the acting industry, because, like, while all the other actors would talk about, like, thespian things and directors and, oh, yes, the drama theatre company over here, yes, oh, so-and-so had such a great, or whatever. And yet I would just sit there writing notes, but at the same time, I'd watch plays, and, like, I'd be able to see the veil. So I'd literally be able to see the actors' egos on stage, which I'm not putting down the actor, but not all actors had big egos. So personally, I would always want to be much more interested in watching the actors that didn't have as much of an ego as the actors parading on stage with a great big ego. And then eventually I realized like I was seeing things that other people weren't seeing, and that I didn't care as an acting student. I didn't care about the things that all the other students cared about, like reading plays and um getting certain roles. I was just like reading my spiritual text and like trying to journaling and reading nonstop spiritual text. Well, until I stopped reading, which was like 5 years ago. 4 years ago. 4 years ago, 2015, pretty much. Other than Mary Magdalene, I haven't really picked up a book. So I know, and that's weirdly like radicals. Everyone's like, you're not allowed to have your own self knowledge. We all have to read other books and other knowledge to gain knowledge. You should be quoting men from the 50s if you want to be valid in your interpretation of that thought. I'm like, okay. Anywho. So yeah, that, that was an awareness for me that I'm like, that's probably, maybe this isn't the right job for me, because like I don't care about theater directors, and I don't really care because legit true, after I'd had those awakenings and left Vancouver, the only reason I went back into the acting industry was because deep down in my heart, love, vibrashe, I was like, I know, I've hatched a plan. I'm going to become a famous actress, like one of those Angelina Jolie types. And then I'm going to use all my millions and billions of dollars to advocate this, to share this. And use my money to be like, see, guys, it's not cool to use your money just to have lots of big houses and glamorous clothes and go to swanky events. Like, barf. And then also what I don't get is like, why do actors do adverts? I'm like, why is it that you think someone's pretty fucking cool, and then the next day you see them in some Givenchy advert, and you're like, wow, what? You need the extra 500,000 pounds that company is going to pay you to sell us more shit we don't need? What, because you're so special? Anyway, that's my little vent. But like, yeah, that was the plan. And of course, trying to pursue that obviously almost killed me, because, yeah, I couldn't. I just couldn't. So before I died, I decided to do lots of yoga every day. Somebody the other day asked me like, "Oh, how do you get into yoga?" and something like that. I'm like, in fairness, like the majority of people who get into yoga, it's because they're like gonna die. Like, I was like, okay, one path is self-destruct, drinking and partying and fucking in the shadows, which I'm incredibly proud of. And at the same time, I say that with a bit of lightness, but incredible depth as well, because I'm not ashamed. I'm not ashamed of it either. I am fully aware that the world that I was indoctrinated by, I was a representation of that. That the world around me, I was an innocent bystander, like so many of us. I was told by the world that I should be a party girl. I should just be a fun party girl. Well, guess what? Holy shit. Alcohol can fuck you right up the arse if you're not careful. Especially, anywho, hence why I have so much hard love vibrashe for the young ones in the party scene and in the club scene still. I'm just like, all of us matriarchs and patriarchs can just hold space for the young ones who are going to go off on one, because like, please, Lord, let them just be safe. And the truth is, again, the reason there's no regrets is that I learned a lot during those party days. I had amazing conversations sometimes with people high on cocaine. I had amazing hot love vibrashe experiences high on pills and ecstasy. I really don't have an edge or a judgment around anything. Food, da da da, blah 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 blah. It's that I always am wanting to get to the root of why people are doing what they're doing, so that we can harmonize that root. Not go around just blaming each other for the shits that we feel, because we're all in the shits, because the world is a little bit in the shits because she's going through a transformation. Tequila fucks me up. I did a bikini contest high on tequila, and then I barfed because I was not like the other girls. It was like one of those moments of I'm like, oh my God, what am I doing here? Why am I doing this? Like, I can't. Because these are like girls to be like, and like a lot of the girls like just took their tops off and put cream all over them, and I'm like standing on stage watching them being like, I don't want to do it, I don't want to do it. I didn't I didn't even take my jean shorts off, or my, oh god, I didn't take anything off in that nudity way. Not that there's anything wrong with that, but I just, yeah. And then I ended up chucking that night because I was so ashamed. This was way back. I would have been 22 when I did this alone. I did some lone jaunt down to Nuki, and yeah, yeah. Anywho, and there again, I'm thinking about God, the world we live in, how we're just meant to objectify ourselves and be sexy, and and I'm at this stage, just like, my God, our culture, we've just lost connection. We've, and people don't know how to talk to one another. Everyone's living in shame. And the craziest thing is that they're in denial of the shame, and yet there's no reason they don't. From this super mega loving place, there's no reason. Nothing, no, especially the empath. I'm like, oh God, shame is so painful. I'm like, I never wish shame on anyone, and I just wish so badly that every human in the whole world could like be her now and just be like, you're okay to feel shame. It's okay if you act it out. You know, it's been a long, hard slog here on this planet. Could we just ease up on each other, But how do we do that? Well, we have to learn first how to ease up on ourselves. And that means being kind to ourselves, even when we're in the deepest shit. Being kind to ourselves, even when we act it out, you know? Shame tears muscle. Explain more. Are you connecting the shame to the physical representation of the shame? Hmm. And that's what I started to realize, Lori. Once we actually begin the self-love practices, it's like we realize that it's our choosing love which is purging and or rising to the surface these densities and or distortions. I clump all lower vibrational emotions into density and distortion of truth. So the further away we are from our inherent divinity, grace, and truth, the further we are away from that, the worse life gets, the worse we feel. And yet, I'm not saying that that's what we're projecting into the field. Oftentimes, we have to go down there to address, okay, wow, look at all this depression. Look at all this shame. Look at all this guilt that I'm still carrying. So clearly, the glamour life from my past, that wasn't true. That was a fantasy. That was an overlay. That was a mask. So I've got to face this reality here now and own it fully if I want to rise above it. It's that powerful. Simple, but not always easy in the moment energetically, because we're all fucking shit scared of feeling emotions. Because we judge ourselves, because we're used to, because all this shit comes up when we feel it all. And because we've been in such denial, it just can be overwhelming. It can be. I can't even quite. And some of you might really in earnest be able to reflect that back to me as well. But the last few years have just been pure nonstop healing. In emotional storms, you're like, when does it let up? And I'm like, I don't know. I have a book and I have a teaching and I have a process that works for me and the people that get attracted to me, but I can't give people timelines. I don't want to do that. I wouldn't want to make those kind of promises, because at the end of the day, your life is yours. And in fairness, increasingly so, I only attract self-responsible creators now. I attract people who get it to the point that like we don't get entangled, because it's not, they get it. Oh, I gotta feel this, I gotta work through this, right? And so it's like, yeah, that's clarity. Clarity in exchange versus some of my old paradigm stuff, which was me servanting, as in like me playing the part of the servant girl as the yoga instructor, visiting people of a certain demographic who wanted me to stretch them. They wouldn't want me to talk about this kind of stuff necessarily. In fact, I was sensitive enough to pull back in conversations sometimes, because I could just feel that this was not, and or I would say something and then my clients would just kind of like go quiet. And I was always like, oh, see, this is the invisible, like, we're not gonna go there. Okay. Like just that. And then usually I would know that I'd be getting to the end of a client exchange when they would start to like tell me what they needed. And I'm like, right. So y'all don't want the intuitive power flow from my heart space. You want to put me in my place. I'd be like, I think we're done. And now increasingly what's happening is that the only people I'm even really attracted to in the yoga vibrashe are sensitives, are empaths that are going through the massive healing. You know, people getting in or wanting to do yoga from like a different perspective. I don't want to work with, you know, and that fair, what that's fair, right? Like I just said something that I literally had a little moment of like, did I just say that? And I'm like, I sure did. I'm like, I'm weirdly amazed at these new energies of like how, and I'm also aware on this end how it is true that that thing about being addicted to like the negative sad stuff. This has been this phase these last like little bits where I'm like I can weirdly feel that there's a part of me that's like, oh, I don't have all that pain and drama no more. Like, juju, now what? And I'm like, I guess I got to create more fun and more abundance, you know? I guess I got to create like more of that shit to move forward with. So obviously with this whole duality piece, I have like separation versus unity and fear versus love. But if there's a versus in there, of course it is a dualistic aspect. And there is a definite, so it's sort of like the ego discussions of like we can't just shun the ego if we're talking about it. We've created it. So if we created it, we can uncreate it, or at least not let it abuse us and abuse each other, right? It's like us creating the system and then being like, the system, fuck the system. And you're like, it's not the system, it's us. And so there is a divisiveness even when we talk about this because it brings us into, pardon me, into separation weirdly. And so I'm aware that like unity is like the divine. Unity is just like the wholeness of your heart because you can't vibrate unity and be in separation. Duality really only comes about in like comparative analysis. If we're here now in our presence, we're just in our presence. There's no duality. There's unity. There's love. There's connection. There's feeling, you know. And the other is being in our heads, picking ourselves or other people apart to be right, so that we can feel better. Because we don't, whatever we're touching against, we don't like it. I don't want to feel that. So I'm going to think this, you're going to put you in your place and da 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 da. So there's literally a polarized swing in the bifurcation because we have to rise out of those codependency patterns if the less responsible beings are going to learn how to be responsible. Or they'll just stay in a pattern and keep looping back in and finding the sensitive empaths that will keep feeding their narcissism. Which again is simply people who don't have any emotional responsibility, thus lack consideration for other people's feelings. So it doesn't matter what other people go through or other people feel, as long as they're okay, it's fine. But when they're feeling angry, reactive, da da da, it's everybody else's fault. It's everybody else's problem. And that's the difference. It's not that fucking difficult, you know? And yet when someone is a narcissist, I can tell you what, if you're an empath and somebody's confusing you to no end, whenever you try to address something, whenever you try to bring it up, they're abusing you. They're manipulating you because they're feeding off of your supply, but they don't want you to grow and they don't want you to necessarily be free and happy. They just want you to be a certain fixture in their life so they can feed off of your energy. So just be mindful. And yes, we're all here for each other because the large majority of us will have attracted these types of relationships for most of our lives because most of us on some level had or grew up in a situation where people weren't happy and didn't know how to make themselves genuinely happy. And they might have exhibited certain pleasure-seeking happiness traits, but our empathic ability knew damn well that they were miserable motherfuckers. So as a young child, as a young innocent child, we made it our fucking mission to make everyone around us happy. Here, maybe this will make you happy. Look, I brought this. So instead of actually being concerned for our personal needs as the empath, we have spent most of our lives getting joy, i.e., they're feeding our supply as well. Let us not be under any illusion here. We're feeding our own supply. Their misery makes us feel good because for those brief moments or those patterns, we create the illusion for ourselves that we're making it better. I'm making their life better. I'm helping them. I'm supporting them in their business. I'm getting into da da da. But what we don't realize is that there's an unconscious of us seeking our needs. We're seeking something from them too. But we ain't never gonna find it because most of us as the empath, we're seeking love. We're just seeking unconditional love, which at this point, what we're all realizing is it's our own love. I got enough love for me and all y'all, right? So the more love I have for me, the less I want to hang out with people who are not yet yoking yoga, doing the discipline to invoke that love from within themselves. And if I can do it, anyone can do it. Any of us can find the love from within the self. But people pleasing narcissist doesn't help us. And living in denial of our unity piece, it doesn't help. But what I've noticed is that when you go through big, deep shit, it's going to clear. It's not only going to metamorph your own life, but it's going to metamorph your entire social circle as well. Don't expect everyone that you love to stick around necessarily. And it's not about blame and attack or judgment. It's just about resonance. This is why I wrote the book so hardcore, especially as an empath, because we feel so easily we feel guilty. And then can be manipulated to like, but you shouldn't feel guilty. I'm not making you feel guilty. And you're like, oh, okay, right. Okay. Yeah. I'm sorry. I shouldn't feel guilty. But then you're like, but I do feel guilty. And I'm pretty sure you're doing that to me, but then you're just denying that you're doing that. See that? Any other empath? Oh, I don't know. I guess that's someone manipulating you. When you're really clear and then you go into an engagement and somebody goes like this and you're like, oh, okay. That's fucking abuse and manipulation right there. Especially when somebody lives in luxury, and you're like, it is so twisted. And that's why we feel twisted. Our feelings are a lot more honest about what's going on than our thoughts. And this is something we're having to really withdraw from a little bit because, again, our industrial age would have us think, therefore I am. So, okay, imbalanced worldview. I think, therefore I am. But nothing else that I am is I am. So our emotions, I should just put in a fucking box. But I think, therefore I am. And I'm like, so what's the emotions then? Oh, our power. But we don't want to be powerful because the controllers like to power over us. Oh, okay. You twats. So we got to find enough love for all of it, including the controller system, including our own shitty projections, and including everybody else's as well. Just like king. However, when we're really doing this work, don't ever be afraid to walk away. Don't ever be afraid to just fucking bust a move and get out of there. The amount of situations I've just fucking fled from, and then I've actually had people be like, you should go back, you should da. And I'm like, fuck you. Like, I come too far to go back and continue to, as in, this is the wound. This is the empath wound. This is what I've just fucking realized. Like, literally, the massive proper grid shift happened yesterday where I was like, oh, I get it. We're all running around looking for our parents' love because they didn't know how to love themselves. They didn't have the emotional awareness. So us, the empath, in this new paradigm energy building, all we did was go out and try to make our parents happy. So everyone that I manifested in my life were slightly miserable or depressed or a little bit poor or da. And I just felt it was my fucking God-given duty to go around and make everybody happy because that's how I got love. That's how I got support. Was by doing good, but again, there is the codependency right there. Because my unconscious wound is seeking a supply, and their wounding, and or just their way of being, let's be honest, just their way of being at that point is to feed off of people who just want to give selflessly. And it's the empathic giving selflessly that we have to empower ourselves to cut that out, because it's not helping nobody. It's certainly not helping us. And it's actually not in the long run helping anybody anyway. To deny our heart, to deny our needs, to put ourself aside, all like because we're some fucking martyr bullshit. I got all the same shit running as everybody else. I just choose something different. I can get caught up in the rat race and the glamour of it all and thinking that I should be blah blah blah, or thinking that I'm some self-important person because I feel this or do this bullshit. You know, we're all one. That's the point. And every time, that's the diligence of it, the discipline, the persistence, the consistency. We think it's something other than what it is. And there again, that's the power of think, therefore I am. And people just go around thinking thoughts and then they try to deny that they were thinking those thoughts. And I'm like, but you've created that reality. And again, the only reason you deny thinking certain thoughts is because you have a projection running of a facade. I'm a good person though, or I'm a spiritual person, or I would never, no, I would never. I'm like, okay. Creation doesn't lie. That this is where all of this stuff is becoming incredibly self-facing for people. The whole collective is rising up, and people holding on to their false power. It's coming. It's coming. The atonement energy is coming. The Christ energy is here. So it's like you can't run away from the source of creation. It knows everything. So it's not right. It knows everything. So all the veils that we're busting through, all the kind of barriers that we're breaking down and standing down is what is par for the course in what's shining down the corruption and paving the path to change for all of us, right? False ideal, right? Density, darkness, distortion. That's right. That's right. That's right. It's all the veiled deception via the self, thinking anything is separate. That's the deception. That's a lie. That's it. Mindful of the convolutedness, I know, Elliot. I know. The thing is with this language is new to me as well. It was only by me describing a situation that I was in last year that somebody was like, "Have you heard of narcissism?" And I was like, "What is that?" And I guess it's just maybe a slightly softer psychological profile to being a sociopath or a psychopath. But I would sort of compartmentalize, if we must, to like it's like passive aggressive narcissism, sociopathy, and then being a psychopath. So like those um are the bridges of disparity in our disconnected state. And again, I weirdly can say that with a lot of compassion because I'm aware that they're in a deeper state of fear and insecurity than the majority of even the slaves and empath. As in, I can feel the deeper wound as that comes out. It won't be pretty, but then that's those collectives' karma. You know, every collection of human being is like a constellation. It's like a star system. That's why we're weird, or not weird in that way, but that's why in our own regrouping, that's why it feels familiar or feels nice or da, da, da. Imagine like going home, but like a true home versus just this false one. So when you start to find your like true north, you resonate because we were all cut from the same cloth, you could say, from the universe and from our galactic travels. So a lot of us would have like fought in the Orion War. A lot of us would have been visiting Sirius and Pleiades along our travels in this galaxy, Milky Way. Um, I have no doubt that some of you guys are like me and have memory of like wormhole portals, like flying through different cosmic gateways to get to different dimensions. Um, some of us have memory of our actual birthplace, of when we first saw the light-filled awareness of our mother, father, creator. Oh, oh, so I talk about that. I don't know why I'm feeling emotional, but it's like this that place inside. I feel like for most of us, that's what we miss. That's the home. And like when we remember the grace and peace and unconditional love of our true mother father creative aspect, it's so fucking beautiful. It just makes all of this little petty human stuff really small and insignificant because of the love, the true love that our creator and the creative aspect within has for all of life. There's no separation. Creation, is love, is love. And then what we see is that division and duality is held within creation. So all of this shitty human behavior is held. Oh, I don't know why I'm getting emotional. I'm still premenstrual in fairness, but like, yeah, all of it is held by the Divine Mother. So it's not like not like anyone is wrong or bad or anything, but everyone's got some shit to work through. Oh, blah, 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 blah. Yeah, well, clearly, see, divine sight, I think that's it, is that, well, it's funny that 2006 is, I think, when I read The Secret. So there's no doubt that we all attain and or attract the information that we need for our co-creation when it's relevant, when it's time, right? Because I think for a lot of us, this is still a relatively new, a lot of actually clients who have been attracted to this channel, or as in, I just mean like people who ended up just finding me and then like booking a session came about when I started talking about the empath narcissist stuff. And many empaths have come out being like, oh my God, like what the fuck? How do people do that? And I'm like, I know. Many of us are beginning to awaken to this level of behavior. We do not understand. But we do when we drop in and feel the emotion because it makes more sense that way. Okay. So fifth. I'm like, here again, this could be quite a leap. But be mindful of the energy with which we try. Truth is, you're the only person you're here for. Your awakening, your joy, your peace, your love, your divine expression. The weirdest thing I think this may or may not hit home for people is that that is an illusion. The savior complex is an illusion. And again, that savior complex will destroy us because it is thyself, right? It is only thyself that can set thyself free. The truth shall set you free. And it is only in my perpetual humbling of my own egoic arrogance that I go around thinking that it's my job to fix people. And every time I withdraw, because most times they just fucking hit me back and then it hurts me. Why is it hurting me? Because I'm going out of my way to try to fix somebody. That's not my responsibility anymore. It's not. And this is where it's a leap for an empath to cut ties with karmic cycles of abuse because I'm done. I don't want to go back. I get it now. I see. And like the freedom feeling is visceral. You feel the upliftment of cutting weights and shackles off of your limbs the moment you do it. Other people in their joyful life journey is their own. And as much love as we have for our brothers and sisters here, they will find their way so long as we continue to find ours. But never deny. what you're being asked to do. Never deny what you're being called to do, you know? Know that you're in your truth even when this is the other thing, the paradox of it. Even when we're crying on our YouTube channels, even if we're getting angry at people, even if we're reacting, even if we're being an absolute effing fucking monster, like, even that is okay. Like, we can still fucking love ourselves, we can forgive ourselves, we can hold space for ourselves. I don't either, fifth, in truth. There might be fair enough, like, noodle with it. I and I still think all of us can still keep grounding in, expanding out, keep grounding in, expanding out. I don't either. And fair, I think that was a relevant thing to share, but I intuitively don't feel like you have this massive savior complex running. I genuinely do feel like the large majority, if not all, is coming from this, like, earnest heart space to share the information because it's relevant to you and the people that are finding you. And at the same time, yeah, we could all keep ourselves in check around this conversation of the savior, because I probably still default into that from time to time. Yeah, oh, totally. I'm sure yesterday and with one of you, it was like I just saw it. I saw the, like, that little girl imprint of, like, how good I felt helping someone, which, again, if I wasn't careful, that could become a pattern and a codependent one. It feels so nice to make my mommy and daddy feel good. That makes me feel like such a good girl. And I just want to be a good girl. And I find all of my love, attention, and approval from doing nice things for all of these people rather than getting to know who I am and living in alignment with my source, and then allowing people that align with that source to align with me. Rather than thinking that it's my fucking God given duty to go around and make everybody like me. Because I think that is love. When, yeah, a lot of us have learned brutal fucking lessons because that's not love. That's control and domination, especially when we're blah, blah, blah. See, I would noodle with that, CC. I don't what is real then? Our feelings, there's discernment. I would say there's discernment when it comes to interpreting our feelings. Because our feelings are a huge piece, aren't they? And it's the feelings and emotional body which has been denied, not our thoughts, not our physicality. Eat well and exercise, think positive thoughts, and just pretend that you don't have emotions, except for the good ones, right? So I'm like, we've been living in mass denial for millennia, and we're still having a hard time facing the depth of our emotional backlog. And so to me, it is, I'm gonna keep on talking about emotions and keep on talking about emotions because I still get the backlash from people. Oh, calm down. Oh, you're raising your voice. Oh, you're crying, you're emotional. There, kick back. Over and over again. We're not allowed to feel. I'm ashamed. I'm disgusting. Oh no, I shouldn't have broken down. Oh no, I shouldn't have, right? Shame. The level of shame and guilt that we've been programmed to feel about feeling is crazy, and it's all really fucked up because it's emotional, or sorry, it's invisible. And this is the thing about why it's so destructive in the long run, is that they can hide. So if you're the one always addressing something and somebody is denying what they're feeling, they're unconsciously projecting all their shit onto you, and then you're acting it out and wondering, oh my God, I'm a horrible person because I'm acting out all this craziness, not realizing that you're actually acting out their projection of you, because they're not dealing with their anger. They're not owning their own guilt because they're still reacting that everything that, life, so and so, bullshit, that person, because they're trying so damn hard to please everybody that they just start breaking down and losing the plot completely. I tend to make squares upset interesting. Do you mean squares like straight edge type people? Does that make, do you know what I mean? Like, I don't know how, if I'm describing that right. Like, you know, fifth, I remember the sun. I thought I was alone. Awesome, you do too. But this is so beautiful about the remembrance. It's like having these cosmic remembrances and then reflecting them back to one another and knowing that they're not meant to be exactly the same. We don't have to be exactly the same to affirm that knowing to one another. But I have that memory as well. Like chilling with some master energy or in the sun vibrashe, the sun children or the solar children, you know? Um, that's why there's the connection. That's the Christhood essentially. Um, you know, they're all hanging out in the sun, rooting for us, right? And sometimes we go there in our consciousness to be like, what the fuck? Anywho, it is totally, I agree. I remember yesterday when I was on fifth share, I was like, I kept going back through the comments to try to like trace the communique. And then I realized it's the same here. It's that um, we all, well, thank you, fifth. I just have mega appreciation for you guys. And again, I think sometimes we can, um, so this is weird. I started to realize that the sharing here is very much connected to all the work because of how we can all get triggered and or bring things to the fore to then noodle around and hopefully find greater clarity for not just us, right? There's anyone who would ever at any point in any timeline come across these videos that it may help them discern something. It might help them have a different perspective, which lightens the burden a little bit. You know? Yeah, you're welcome. Mm. God, I love you so much, you guys. I feel really like soft and blessed to be here as per usual. Sunray is my DJ name. Ray is my last name. Child of the sun for sure. I think so. And then there's a gal named Michelle who has popped in here from time to time, and she wrote a comment on one of these videos saying like even the live chat is amazing or something, like you're all really awesome. And then she said that she was like, which I wouldn't even buy into or hook into as as like a real thing, but she was like, there's so many ascended masters here, and I was like, oh wow, wow, like an onlooker. Anyway, not that that should like, now we're ascended masters, everyone. Let us go power over the rest of humanity, pretending that we are the gods of life. Like, no, that doesn't feel fun to me. Like, that would just trigger me. But I do know that all of us connecting is the juice, like is the thing that's really helping us ride out this belt. Um, that's the chance you take exposing yourself. It's true. Fifth and any of us who do this sort of thing, it is weird and kind of challenging. And at the same time, I appreciate you guys like being here because I'm aware that it's like helping me develop my skill, if that makes sense. Because I've gone through some really intense, lovely hurdles, which some of you have been privy to witnessing. And yeah, all of it is just more like unashamedness and unapologeticness and ultimately like standing in one's power and being able to like, I don't know, I guess not have it all figured out. Like literally just be real. Who would have thunk it? Who would have thunk at this day and age that literally all we have to say to each other is like, one, you're okay, exactly as you are. And two, like your joy is literally service to the world, and like what works is going to feel natural, and at this point, once you lock into the authenticity vibe, there's just no going back. It's been about 3.5 years now that I've been en flow, proper intuitive living, no external input, biofeedback, just projecting into the field and following the breadcrumb trails. And I can say that it absolutely is like legit manifestation vibrashe, except never ever did my mind get the plan right, if you get me. I'm like, and so at this point, 3.5 years in, I'm just more surrendered. I'm just less in my head. And then I forget that there's people still trapped in different places, or still people not even aware of any of the stuff that we're aware of. They're just like, no, they're not. They're beautiful and lovely. They're tired, but a little insecure, confused, but they're not monkeys. They're not zombie drones. They're beautiful, um, valuable humans. And let's be honest, if they weren't having their fucking life force siphoned from them at every fucking corner, via the food, via the school system, via the working construct, via the social media, via the media, being bombarded, you're not good enough, you're not good enough. Yeah, no wonder. No wonder we're in the shits. And yeah, so everyone's being told they're not good enough, but the flip side is like, but you've got to pretend like you are. That's the trick, okay? Pretend like you're good enough whilst in suffering, but deny the suffering. Just keep plowing forward on the you're good enough, you know? Just the way you are. I've been into the clouds since I was very young. I love the cloud watchers. You guys and the sky watchers, I find it so fascinating. Reaching one is just one, and another and another. GG for truth, like pretty much. And that was sometimes also what it came down to with this work of mine, not particularly having access to like lots of capital ever. And also being a little bit irresponsible when it came to practicalities and in finances. Although again, no regrets. I don't give it ass. I've survived. I'm fine. It's all good. But that was also my point of attraction when it came to doing this work, right? Because I realized that trying to find clients or trying to grasp or trying to get like never worked. I just thought just one is just one, and another and another. And then when I started to get overwhelmed about all to love as a movement, as a global movement, I'm like, right, as in how can I move it forward? Whenever I get in that space, it starts to feel all like anxiety and uncomfortable because I can't, because I'm not. It's not about me in essence. It's about the love hot vibration. So it's like anytime I try to like take over the control in some weird egoic way, something life happens to like throw me off or take somebody away or, to just remind me. I'm like, get out of your head and just be in your heart and let the love lead. And that's pretty much why and how we're here today. Just let the love leave. Let the love leave. Let it just get out of here. We don't need it. I'm like, no, we do. We want it. How did that work out for you, Chris? Turns 3 days into one. Interesting. Well, and I'm increasingly like time, days. It's all messed up. I'm like, I don't, because all I trace now are patterns. This is what I mean about I've had this, something shifted in my awareness where there's like this next level layer, this next level detachment feeling. And then it's like I'm tuning into this like numerological or sacred geometric sense of space-time co-creation. And now there's no linear construct of time. It's patterns and cycles and yeah. And so patterns and cycles in here presence now, there's no, so like basically it's like the karmic cycle I'm completing is an energetic pattern that I'm closing the door on, that I would have acted out at least probably 2 to 3 lifetimes. And this lifetime, even though it was just as energetically painful, i.e. karma, is the same energetic cycle, right? It's just as painful. We survived. We're still here. So we've had a rebirth or possibly many rebirth cycles, resurrection cycles in one lifetime. because of, again, what I talk about in the book, the karmic backlog. Because people are in such in there's layers upon layers of denial, generationally speaking. Um, I always want to say 6 to 7 generations, but I'm also aware of this portion of the collective that's transforming 14. I have a feeling that might be us as well. I have a feeling that because of our awareness in the emotional field, hence why I want to always remind people, when you're sitting in an emotional storm, that's you doing the work well done. So it's like those depths that we're clearing. So for me, for example, I'm aware now that these last few years have been more about clearing collective programs than my own personal program. In these last 6 months, it's been collective programming. I've been culminating a karmic cycle of my personal karma of every lifetime. And then weirdly at this point as well, I'm aware of ancestral and genetic karma. So there's energetic zones in my body which are addressing my past as well. And yet I'm aware in myself, as much as I might be uncomfortable or that it's behind me, that this is wrapping up, that I'm going to store it away in the earth akash and just be done with it. Right? And then all these new projections, imaginations, and sensey feelings of like, oh my God, we're creating a new earth. It's amazing. All this stuff is going to continue to. So, because we kind of imagine the high vibration of a collective like us coming together, and then we can continue. So we can congregate a few times a year, or at least once a year, I should think, support one another in developing and supporting our personal lives, and then also keep growing the work that we do. I don't think it's gonna go back. It's if anything, everything's moving and swaying in our benefit, in our positive direction. We reap what we sow. The large majority of us have been loving people all along. And so we get to receive all of that love. And then in our receiving of all that love, we shine that much more brightly. And then for more and more people, it's like undeniable. And they're like, damn, maybe I should have been nicer to you. And you're like, yeah, but at least you know now that it's not very nice to treat someone like a slave. At least you know now that it's an appropriate human thing to consider one another's feelings. Now we're learning that, like, we're not machines or zombies. Anyway, I think that's it, you guys. Hi, Michelle. Yeah, Rochelle's a good support in this community. Everyone's just got the stuff, right? Thanks, Gigi. Gigi. I think Gigi is a very sexy French name for some reason. I don't think that you're French or anything, but I just think Gigi. Like, if I, for some reason, ended up living in Paris and falling in love with a Parisian man, I would have a kid and I would call them Gigi. But it would have to be Gigi. It couldn't be Gigi or even like Gigi. It just has to be, you have to say it in this sort of sexy, soft kind of way. Gigi. Oh my God. Oh, wee wee. Oh, wee wee. Oh, wee wee. Oh, gee whiz. Did you live on Commercial in Vancouver? No, I lived in Kits. Well, in fairness, when I moved to Van in September 2001, just before 9/11, I moved to Van and I lived on campus. So the first however long a 1 year of university is until like 2002, May, June, I guess. So I lived on campus. And then if you know Vancouver, the university campus is on the far west coast of the city. And then one of the neighborhoods that is like outside of the university campus and on your way into central Vancouver or into the town center, that's called Kitsilano. And Kitsilano is a little bit of a yuppie area. Very nice. But I would say, is yuppie like a fair enough description without being Point Grey? I remember Point Grey as being like so gorgeous, really beautiful. And then you have the beaches. You have Kitts Beach and some really nice shopping. I used to work the time that I spent in Vancouver, I worked in 2 different independent stores. One of them was called Thriller, which was on West 4th, and then or Fourth Ave, right? And then Thriller on Fourth, or was it Eighth? But then I think this was after I left. He had like a little shop on, no, I think it was Fourth, and then a furniture shop randomly. I worked in a furniture store. I only ever worked in independent stores, eh? Because I basically couldn't do the corporate vibration because it was too much BS that I could sniff out even. Anyway, yeah, I agree there. I just saw some comment, a fifth, about transcending the system. I know, it's true. Oh no, oh no, you took it away. I was with you there, I believe. I would just say it. um, it's true. Because of the work that we've been doing, we've been burning through the walls of that construct. So we're getting really close. We're getting really close in as far as actually manifesting new paradigm grid systems that are actually in harmony with the biofeedback resonance field, like the New Earth guy, Sasha. His creation in Bali is a bioresonant field zone. And then he's actually attracting kings and sultans and blah blah from all over Indonesia to support him in the work he's doing for the event Horizon, for New Earth to be born. And that not only Sasha, but there's you guys here. There's some of you I know that have the intention to have an island and have yachts and have, so that new paradigm people can actually congregate on these islands and live New Earth. Here's the thing for the most of the masses, unless we actually do it, they won't believe it. And they're comfortable. I know that's part of the issue of all this stuff. They're comfortable. You're like, what? I don't want to get out of my comfortable habits and patterns. And you're like, okay, fair enough. Hence why we don't distract ourselves trying to fix or change people. Yeah, 100. The fifth world. This is kind of where I'm coming from, and stuff that I don't talk about publicly, because of certain awarenesses and sensitivities, because it's um divine law trumps earth man-made law, obvious. And it's like the Yoga Sutras, the Yogi Bhajan Sutras vibrate the cosmos, and the cosmos clears the path. So like when I surrendered at the age of 19, various things continued to happen in my life, which, um well, and they're all still relevant now with regards to my understanding of how manifestation worked, because I was on a manifestation path then. It wasn't like when I read the book The Secret I started manifesting. I had an awareness of manifesting since I was 15 or 16 years old. And by the age of 19, when I had my awakening, that's what gave me the courage to take the leap and buy a one way ticket to England. I was then putting myself on a divine path. I was surrendering to the minutia of the 3D construct because I was aware that it was fucked and that it was actually an oppression enslavement system. So I followed my heart call to endeavor the paradigm shift. And without even realizing, that's what I've done in within the self. And it's the emotional field that is the emancipation for us as a humanity, because it's only via the emotional gate of darkness that we transcend our own darkness and rise our energy up. And then the heart connects to that mental capacity, opens the inner eye, and then you see the birthing, and you see and feel the vision of the new earth, which for the most part is just more natural biofeedback resonance. It's totally 100% sustainable, no more destroying of the earth, and a happy, healthy people. And it's not, again, about falsely singing kumbaya and holding hands. It's about having our feet firmly planted on the ground and knowing how this works from an intellectual understanding from within the heart field. It's a quantum leap in our function here. And those of us that are sharing, we're here to share because that is our function. No more, no less. And there's no right or wrong. It's that if you know what I'm saying, it's because you feel it. Right? So yes, that's it. That's fit. This is where we can reflect back. Just keep following the divine, miracles happen. And Like, again, this is the stuff that I'm always really sensitive to, but people who know me very personally, as in a very small, tight-knit group of people, my personal yoga journey is quite extraordinary as far as rising above the system, as you say. And if any of you are kind of curious about that, you could reach out privately and ask me what I'm talking about. But let's just say it's the real deal rebel yogi living in the truth of their divine self. Because when you do, your life is just miraculous. It doesn't mean you don't keep bottoming out emotionally, but like when you're on your divine path, it's like doors just open. All you have to do is keep walking through the door. And stand down the devil in thy mind. Stand down the devil that would have you worry about the shit that's not real. Oh, but I haven't got a. Oh, but I. Oh, I don't like. You're in faith. You in God's loving trust. Then just focus on God's loving trust and move forward in your divinity. All of our little man-made lies are just bullshits trying to control you. None of it's real, and none of it really has the potential to hold us back unless we buy into it as true. Mhm. Illusions will steal your life. That's people I see. I see people's life force being invested in illusions, and I see how it takes their life away. They don't have time. They don't want to have fun. They're da 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 da. They got to work. I got to make money. I've got da 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 da. And you're like, that's an illusion. And yet, here's the thing. No judgment. We all have been there, done that. It's like, oh man, so burdensome. I just wish so badly and pray so often and so deeply for people to wake up and be free. I just wish so deeply that we'll find our way. That's right. That's right. Marianne Williamson is running for Prezio. This is the woman that I quote about it is our light, not our darkness, that most frightens us. Who am I to be gorgeous and brilliant and beautiful? Who am I not to be? Right? Marianne is a total ledge. Let's be totally honest here, my friends. Our deepest fear is not that we are inadequate. Our deepest fear is that we are powerful beyond measure. It is our light, not our darkness, that most frightens us. It's true. I just got shivers. So hence you claiming your light is actually you transcending your fear. But the point is we can't escape the fear. You have to feel the fear. You have to walk through your own gates of hell to embody the light that you are. But you do have to move through those deepest fears to then access the light. Divine sight. And I also, because the synchronicities, I'm sure even 2 days ago I watched something where like, and you're gonna feel the synchronicities are gonna pick up and be so wild and da da da, literally. Synchronicity, it's like all the well, and then the way I look at synchronicities, it's also manifestation. Our awareness is like everything is more like words, Molly. Heightened. Everything's more heightened. So it's like those synchronicities were always there. We just never noticed them. Now we're just like, oh, ah, 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 like it's weird, but I'm like, oh my god, that's what that is. That's manifestation. That's me. I'm doing that. I'm doing the synchronicity, and then it just makes everything. It makes the quantum field more obvious to us, right? Crystals are my allies too. Nice one. I know there's a lot of you who have crystal connection. I know that some of you actually have. So those of you with an eye for design, be aware that there might be another layer to your abilities and gifts that has to do with sacred geometry and in spaces. So how to clear a space, not just with saging and smoke, but actually with sacred geometry. I feel like I was talking about this with one of you, and I've suddenly popped into my head that I have a friend who did, I believe, a 6-week course about this. So if that jogs a memory, let me know. I'll put you in touch with her. I don't even think her course is that much money either. Um, ah, that is amazing. Yeah, I forget that that she's American and you're in America and da, da, da. Like obviously I feel like we're all in our own little world, right? But I'm like, oh yeah. Like she would probably just travel around America all the time, like doing talks and stuff, right? I know. That's why I kind of mentioned it as well. Um, and that's like the training from the mystery school as well. I'm gonna write it down because it might not just be Karen who's interested in it. And this would be to do with people who feel stuck in their environment. Hold on. And feel that their environment is reflecting back like density. And I have to say as well, without again, no judgment here, but certain more ghetto-sized neighborhoods, like here in this country, it's called like council estates. So mass block, you could say like factory or corporate created neighborhoods that are affordable housing, i.e., where the government puts all the poor people. That those constructs are often quite dense because they're hardcore controller system. So energetically, all I ever see is the crystals, certain shapes around lights, and then it's like using sacred geometric pattern to open up dense vortexual corners in the house. But again, this is not my area of expertise, and so I want to find Janelle's website for you. I met Janelle in I met Janelle at A Fest, and I did a podcast with her. Um anyway, sorry guys, this must be so entertaining for you, right? That's interesting. I so get that what Fifth has written and that our experience with God is so intense that we have to dumb it down sometimes. I know. Like this divinity stuff, like we've had to like pretend it's not there. That was something in my after my early awakenings, and like I went off on this adventure, this like I'm just gonna buy a one-way ticket knowing the divine has got my back kind of thing, like 20 years ago. And then I'd end up going out partying though, and I'd get drunk or be doing cocaine, and then I'd end up spouting some of this divinity. And this is when I started to have those weird experiences of people just being like, what's wrong with her? Because I'd be doing this. Like this is the weirdest thing. I would just be talking about this kind of stuff. But at that time, 15, 20 years ago or whatever, people were just like, she's talking crazy. And then, and or the flip, which was people just being like, who do you think you are? Like, you think you're up your own trunk? What, you think you're fucking that special? You should shut the fuck up, bitch. Like that. And me just being like, I'm sorry, I'm sorry, I'm sorry. I don't know what I said. I don't know why I said that. I'm sorry, I'm sorry. Of course I'm not that. I'm not special. I'm not important. No, 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 of course. As in, people attacking you will put you in your place. That's the fear system. That's what everyone do. We're not allowed to be special. Shut down. Sit down, shut up, and do what you're told. And people that are anchored in that reality, they just want to fucking kill people like us. Of course, they would never admit it, but they might try to covertly do other things that might destroy us. So I would, Karen, I would go, and I can't guarantee any of this, but I just know that Janelle launched a course around this a couple years ago. It was a while back now. So there's Janelle's website. And I would probably personally get in touch with her and just say, I, heard through MJ or whatever, the grapevine, that you know how to do sacred geometry for the house, because I have a feeling it can help settle and unblock some energy. But also, I know that a lot of us are guided to certain parts of the world because of our energy field, and because our energy field is actually clearing the invisible blocks and density of that area. So it's not like I don't know her website, and I haven't been in touch with Janelle for like probably almost a year. So again, I would just kind of message her and be like, "Hey, could I book maybe a session or two? I just want to learn about doing some, like we talked about, the crystals, or like the sacred geometric pattern." And I reckon she could even do you like maybe just one session, two at the most, and or you'll buy her course. But like, yeah, I'm aware of the stuff that's in there, and most of it you're already aware of. It's just actually, um, it's the specifics of how the shapes work and where you want to put them. And I know that she can help with that because she's like a mystery school person. So she's, pretty studied in the occult kind of thing. There she is, everybody. She's really cool. Her and I met at at A Fest in 2014, and weirdly we didn't meet at all the whole festival, and then we met at the Give Back Day, which is like the last day of the festival, which only a fraction of the people attend apparently. Anyway, yeah, we went and we met there, and we only met right at the end of the Give Back Day, which is weird. And then we literally did not stop talking for about 36 hours. And she's been quite helpful. There's been the reason we haven't, well, actually, I couldn't quite pinpoint. I think it's just living in different parts of the world, and she's American as well, and having gotten really, really focused and specific on the work that we're doing, and then her having some major awesome breakthroughs, and that was like a trigger point for me to be like, I got to get focused, because if things are starting to take off and shift for these specific people around me, then things are going to take off and shift for me. And yet I was starting to go down into the depth of my karmic wheel. And so it's not it's not like Janelle special. I'm like, literally, there's a lot of people that I've kind of lost touch with a bit that I'm looking forward to just working with, collaborating with at some point. Um, Yeah, MC Nook. So Paul obviously knows Janelle from like stuff we've done, and from Facebook as well, right? She's very cool. It's interesting. Kat Aaron Davis. Do you know when you're sharing this story, the Moldavite, and um just the I find our relationship with crystals really interesting, and the way they ebb and flow out of our lives sometimes. You know what I mean? Hmm. Rochelle, for real. Like, what are you doing, mate? Just move down the coast a little bit. You got more sunshine, don't you? Hey, Revel. Yeah, and the Marianne Williamson stuff. So she's obviously a practitioner, a student and teacher of God in A Course in Miracles. And it was really her and Gabby Bernstein which kind of nudged me. I saw A Course in Miracles, mm, 2014, 2015. And I started doing public speaking, and I started to really commit to the YouTube around that time as well, to share the teachings. And it was Marianne's course in weight loss that helped me really shift the weight and anchor in more like, I would say, balance, and but also a more divine reflection of how I genuinely see my form, rather than like all the weight I guess I used to carry, the emotional baggage. And then but it was also in that course, and from reading some of Marianne's work, that it was that idea of how the ego truly has us chasing our tail, i.e., what diet? It's got to be this diet, and then this diet, or this pill, or this exercise routine, or this person, or that healer, or that blah, 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 blah. The ego, the false construct of the ego, has us chasing all the solution outside of ourselves. And then there's that thing of like the ego chasing it from the ego perspective of separation, i.e., I'm not enough and I've got to find it out there. Chase and you'll never find it. You'll just keep chasing it versus be in your heart and trust in the knowing of the divine love, and then everything manifests. And then you, because you vibrate it from within, you manifest it outside of you, right? It's just that the convoluted multi-layeredness of all of our karmic backlog, i.e., all of our unprocessed emotion, that's the leap that some of us, or certainly in my unique mish, what I'm wanting to get through to people increasingly is like the shifting of the backlog. The ground control vibrational cleaning crew are the empaths who understand what I'm talking about, who know that it's not just about like changing your thoughts or changing your habits, that there's a deeper emotional piece and it's actually healing on a cellular level. So the emotion is what's actually the final piece of our endeavoring these transformational energies. And once we start into that and get into that and see the benefit of it, then we'll continue on the path, right? Hmm. Hmm. Yeah, these are powerful. These are powerful change makers, a world of our own. Um, exactly, Violet Melon. Like that's, and in a really kind of polarity or just selfish, superficial human way, like literally so much of my seeking when it comes to all of this spiritual stuff was because I hated myself. I hated living in my body, and I was, if I drank or if I was doing a lot of cocaine, maybe I'd feel better because I wasn't eating. And it was just this, and then ultimately it's when you start to manifest such ugliness, and fear and danger that are sometimes the effacing shock tactic that we bring into our reality because we're so on the wrong path. We're so far away from who we are. And yet I don't blame myself because, in a sense, we live in a culture that teaches us to deny who we are. So no wonder we're all drinking and fucking in the shadows because we're all terribly in pain. And yet we're trying to find some relief. And let's be honest, when we're in that much pain, sex, drugs, and rock and roll goes a long way to pretend like we're not, or at least escape some of the burden of the immense pain that we feel, you know? Sometimes, like, because I'm not necessarily like following the ins and outs of your guys' conversations, and then I just look down, seeing something more than likely out of context. But yes, crispy and earth paste. And like, oh, and that makes me think, did you guys ever have that as an expression after doing loads of chemical drugs where like the following day on the come down, you're like, oh, really crispy. I feel really crispy. Um, and then face gel just sort of out. I have been doing DM Earth on my teeth the last few days. What's that? Revel. No, I just do more drugs. But weirdly, Revel, that's why I'm like, even another layer having come out of the yoga industry. I'm proud of myself for being transparent here with you guys around my smoking and my coffee, and the fact that I dabble with like things like mushrooms and even things like MDMA and stuff because I've done the teetotal karmic, or not karmic, I've done the teetotal yogic lifestyle, like the whole sattvic and totally pure and blah blah blah, and that's lovely. And like I know even just things like fasting, those sorts of things really do have a lot of value in our beingness. Like there's a reason people do it. And I organically and naturally, i.e., not out of control or trying to control my patterns, but just like I can feel that probably this year I will do like a 3-day fast. I can feel it because I haven't done one in like 6 years. Although I naturally, my own natural intuitive eating patterns are quite like that. Like I just naturally have a few, maybe a day or two in a month where I just food isn't like a thing. And then I'll know, and then I'll go to bed and realize I've had like a small bowl of something and that's it. Or I've had like a smoothie. But I'm just not hungry. I don't have the desire. My body's not wanting a lot of stuff. And then I'll swing, say, might have a day or maybe two where I'm premenstrual, where I can't, or rather, I don't want to stop eating. I'm like, I want all the food. And I never get full. So you can see, like, do you know what I mean? There's like a natural ebb and flow. Yeah. And yeah, sometimes I feel like we're just moving naturally. Like the light body really doesn't need like the density of food necessarily. Again, food is like another program, but at the same time, like I'm like, but I think it's part of our joy here. I think the natural food is part of like we want to be here and eat the food and try the plant medicine and trip out and be like, oh my god, like life is so awesome and fun. I feel that part of the polarity of our religious institution and religious dogma is the teetotal lifestyle. Because why? Because it divides and conquer, right? Because it makes us feel bad about who we are. Oh, you dirty, dirty sinners, you're never going to be free because you like to do this and you like to do drugs and blah, 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 blah. And you're like, oh God. Cause pretty much what I noodle into is I'm like, well, if it's a beautiful plant that pretty much just has all these miraculous benefits, I'm pretty sure the grace of God has provided us with it. It's not to say, and I put my hands up to this, I do abuse it still, and I'm aware of that. But at the same time, I'm not trying to be something I'm not. I'm not trying to be some almighty spiritual guru so that I can fucking power over people. I don't think there's anything to prove, and I don't think that you're a better person than anyone else because you don't do drugs or alcohol. I feel like to each their own. And here's the thing, own it. Own your own. When you own your own, you could proudly say to each their own. Don't say like I have no judgment and then try to fix or change something, right? Right. Whatever you do in your body, enjoy that. And here's the thing, if you genuinely don't like something and don't feel good doing something, then don't do it. It's like the expression of like you can't make a smoker stop smoking until they want to do. If we try to, and I can say this around my my relationship with alcohol. It fell off when it fell off. For years, I was running away from that pattern. For years, I was desperately figuring out, how do I fucking stop drinking alcohol? I just keep going back. I just keep going back, right? But like, and then you get into all the spiritual work and practice, all is coming, or whatever it is, but like attachments falling away. And I have experienced that, which has given me just a bit of like ease and respite around the fact that it's okay. I'm not going to sit here in judgment of myself because I still have these desires, which the society and or the spiritual communities would tell me I'm less than for having that desire. If I just embrace, which I did with the alcohol as well, if I just embrace my desire and say it is all part of the unity aspect of the self, then eventually you move through the gate. So if it doesn't kill me, it's only going to make me stronger. But I am not going to live in fear, because especially because the society we live in has been so good at dividing us up, even with the smoking. Smokers have been completely ostracized. Now, I'm not saying that smoking is good for you, by gosh. But what I'm saying is it as bad as the society has made it out to be? I don't think it is. As the zero waste advocate over here, I would prefer that we're smoking pure natural stuff without those little plastic filters and without all the icky chemicals. I think that would do us great justice to up level the harmful effects of some of these products. But to go around pointing fingers like all smokers are just disgusting killers, I'm like, I don't think that's true, because humanity has been smoking tobacco since the dawn of fucking time. And we, as native tribes, we've been taking plant medicine, including cocoa, including cocaine, including ayahuasca, peyote, all of them. We have been using them as gateways to wisdom on this planet since the dawn of time. So at this point, anything in our world that is making something really, really bad or really, really good, I'd question it. Just like all this love light. Just think positive, love light. Hmm. Are you real or are you just in a bubble? You know, it's one of those. Oh, nice one, Chris P. Revel. I put mushrooms on my cereal. Do you? Do you have a stock? Do you want to send some mushrooms to the UK? Apparently, I can only really get mushrooms in a certain time of year, so I have to wait until autumn. I have to wait until autumn to see in these communities, and this is what the more I expose what I think is my shame, people then reflect back like my deeper truth, like my little secret truth of why I've always been like, whatever. I'm like, because in my depth, I'm like, if I were in pain and like unable to do anything, I'd probably consider not doing it. But I'm like, there's discernment with all this, especially when you do a lot of breath work and you do a lot of exercise, you do and or not, but like you take care of yourself from an energetic point of view. Yeah. And so anyway, you guys are just reflecting that secret deeper inner knowing that a lot of people would be like, no, you're not, it's so bad for you. And, da, da, da. And I'm like, yeah, but we've been ingesting and working with this or forever. So demonizing it as the antichrist, I'm like, that's not the thing. Uh, right, agreed. And here's the thing: for any of you with the depression piece, or if you like me grew up with parents who were severely depressed, um, there again, we advocate the pharmaceutical stuff to help us, and yet what we're doing as we evolve is realizing that it is the natural plant medicine that can help us. So natural, although this is chemical, but it's still a natural chemical derivative, but like MDMA. So microdosing in MDMA is a really effective antidepressant. Mushrooms, having microdose on mushroom and or microdose on LSD, these drugs help us to step back from the minutia and the petty mediocrity of 3D reality to see and feel and directly access the broader aspect of the self. So whether this is happening through meditation or through plant medicine, I don't really care. The more people who are accessing and feeling into their broader self, that is what matters. How we do that, I don't care. And the reason pharmaceutical can cause us an issue is that they're the reason they potentially do more damage without awareness is that they're numbing it. That's, I think, why we have such extreme um, stuff around suicide is that we're in that tough spot of we want to deny the shadow. And so putting a pharmaceutical drug, because in a sense, the pharmaceutical industry is an aspect of the shadow that we're in denial of, which is even a more weird, convoluted stuff to try to discuss or even tap into. But hence the multi-layer of ground control vibrational cleaning crew, right? And I vape and drink coffee. You guys, I would chill with the Jesus homies. Like, for sure. They ate fish and everything, I'm like, oh man. Hey Elf, how are you? And my intuition has the same. And again, I fully own it all. And I do all this with as much conscious awareness as possible, which I imagine you guys do as well. I'm always discerning it. I'm not trying to pretend like this is the best thing ever, but my intuition has the same. I don't know if you guys know, like, what is it? Ayurveda and yoga. I'm Vata Pitta, quite strong Pitta, but I also lean into the Vata, which means I can have a tendency to be a bit ungrounded. And I got to say, cannabis and tobacco just help. And yeah, it's a crutch. Yeah, it's a vice. Yeah, it's a tool. It's an external thing outside of myself, which I am using to help me. And yeah, I can create it from within myself. So thinking that I need this thing is a crutch for sure. However, when I'm aware of it, makes all the difference than just unconsciously doing it over and over again, thinking that I'm a victim of circumstance and that I need this. No, no, no. Have space from these things. Have a relationship with these things. You know what's weird? Coffee. Ever since I did my ayahuasca thing, I'm so aware of how the coffee is a medicine. Coffee is a plant medicine. There is a toxicity to it for sure. Um, there again, breath work, light filled awareness, that's your healing modality. So, in truth, for a lot of us, doing the so called bad stuff, if you think it's bad, just be super diligent with healing your cellular energy every time you do it. If you're gonna eat a bunch of shit, just believe that that shit's actually good for you and you'll do yourself a lot of good. Um, Again, the mind is the most powerful um thing. And everything else is actually very powerless comparatively. We've just programmed the opposite. We were programmed to believe this hard material stuff is the only reality and that all this invisible spiritual ether stuff is a little bit woo woo bullshit. Except, oh no, it's like the opposite. Bing. So we're just pulling everything back in to then shine out the love, hot vibration. Okay, it's been 2 hours, you guys. I think we're good. I get that as well though, Revel, about like there's a polarity in the smoker about dying every day, having a little bit of a detachment around life itself. And so I look at that too, without being kind of dramatic about it or sad about it. I do look at that edge of the smoking of how little I want to be here sometimes. And so I'm like, okay, be cool, but do address that. Like I do want to fully live, and I'm aware that that crutch is part of there's a paradoxical energetic thing that I'm working with all of this stuff. Although bong hits for truth, I'm like, yes, see how fun. I'm like, don't you just want to go have a retreat with all of us together? I gotta say, there's this site on Instagram that I follow called Canna Bliss Retreats, and I'm committed. I just know I'm like, one day I shall go and meet these people. Pardon me. And then also, I think we'll have the same on our ultra love retreats, that we'll just go to places where we'll be able to do it. Maybe not on the retreat, or yeah, on the retreat, and then maybe after as well. MC, I know, I know a few of us here as well that eat it, drink it. Oh, I got this. I think I've shared this with you, and I know a friend who's also got a whole bunch, like not just this oil, but he's got like this paste. I think I might try some today, but he's got this like paste that's super potent. Because there again, this is a man approaching 50 who's going through those kind of life changes, and he still smokes a lot of tobacco. So he's like, I'm just wanting to start to come off the tobacco. Again, it's a choice he's making in his divinity and his truth, for his own body and heart and mind. And so what he's looking for are all the alternatives now. So he's got a paste and a powder and a da da da. And then he's also got some of this oil stuff, which is, I would say, how you have the CBD oil stuff making waves. This, in my physical body, how it feels is just like a more potent grade of medicine from the CBD oil. Do you know what I'm saying? And so this is like it is a psychotropic. So there is a THC element here, where there is not in the cannabinoid and the CBD oil. But it's like eating cookies is different than smoking a bomb. You know what I mean? Or smoking a spliff is different than. And then you also guys will know that like different grades of how you eat it also make the difference. So anyway, it's just like all different. But I really do feel how this is just a next level of like, how the CBD has this sort of like just slight calming effect. This just like has 20% more calming effect, i.e., I'm not quite like I'm mega stoned, but I'm also aware that I feel quite nice. And so I'm like, oh yeah, remember I took a little bit of that. That's why I'm feeling so awesome. I'm also aware that I'm not going to beat myself up over this, because the reason why a lot of us are guided to cannabis and THC and the cannabinoid is that our food crops have been corrupted. So a lot of the food that we have access to doesn't have the nutrients that our bodies are looking for. That's why a lot of us are being guided to this, because we're needing it nutritionally so that we can keep doing the work and stay present. And right, and this stuff works. People are getting in it, and there's no other negative effects. It works with arthritis. It's an anti-inflammatory. It helps to calm the nervous system down. It helps with all that stuff. Where again, our bodies are suffering because if we're only eating processed food, if we're only eating or drinking fluoride induced water, or not clean fresh mineral water or spring water that has some nutrients in it, if we're not eating any fresh fruit, which I can say in the last even couple of weeks, I've been really off that. I've not been eating as much natural fruit and veg or like taking care of myself in that way. But again, I'm not going to fucking beat myself up. I'm just going to be like, okay, I'll see if I can feel better the next day. So I feel like a lot of our bodies are asking for this because one, it heals us and helps to protect us and ground us so that we can make the better choices, so that we can be pioneers of the new. And this is another reason why we're all being guided to the food, i.e., or the land rather, is that more and more of us we know that we have to start growing our own food, because the bifurcation means that controller system will destroy the food crop and destroy the seed. So it's like any of our seeds that we want to keep protected, we keep protected. And then we find all of us in some way will be guided to land so that we can start growing our own food and sharing that food with community extended around, right? Hemp used to just grow naturally and animals ate it. And then we ate the animals. We got CBDs. Thank you. That doesn't happen anymore. Plus, it's all distorted and fucked up, right? I love you guys. And I love how you guys love each other. And I'm like, I so love this community represent the hot love vibrashe of people like no matter what. Oh, hi, Julie. How are you? Totally feel that. That's right. And this is the thing about all of us congregating, coming together, and bringing out the goods in one another is that I know for a fact that you guys have wisdom. Like, who was I speaking to yesterday? The crystal grid. I know it's like a resonant connection that there's like plant wisdom inside you, or sacred geometric wisdom within you. But yet in the intuitive intelligence, it's just a bit more far out. So we're not, so i.e., we're just helping each other to anchor it, align with it, and then naturally bring it out. Because again, it's not in the books, it's in you. It's in the intuition. I was like, I'm like, I don't think I need that today, right now. I'm feeling pretty juicy, actually. However, it is not by chance that the source of love has provided this to me for these last couple weeks, because it's been emotionally wild. And I've been very, very thankful that I've had this at my disposal, just to kind of like, when the energy's moving through, just to be like, you're all right. You're all right. So that's my 2 cents. Remember, put yourself back together again. Yeah, program. I mean, fifth, fifth, agreed. And I think for a lot of us, having deeper, better connections is also how we can release the crutch aspect. I there's a reason, especially with cannabis, like I'm not interested in being like teetotal. I have to stop, or da 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 da. It's like because I don't want to genuinely. I want to get together with people and get stoned. I still do. I want to be able to party and like explore different states of consciousness and being as part of a fun and joyful and balanced life. I also want to just be able to be me and not be high on any drugs, and be able to go and do and be in the world without any of that feeling of a crutch, of a pull. And yet I know what you're saying. It's like a polarity counteract. Plus, I'm aware of, having been in these spiritual communities, that my own little shameful secret before I started my YouTube, I was carrying in hiding, right? I just didn't socialize with people, and I would just stay at home alone and get stoned because I was a yoga teacher. I wasn't allowed to do it. And so I just had this polarity shame, hence having to break free. Now I'm just open and honest with my clients about my lifestyle. And then you guys, and then you guys are some of my clientele as well. So I'm like, if you're just completely honest, people can love and accept you for who you are, and then you can just like say it as it is. And I'm with you there. I'm like, I know when I have more friends and better friends and da 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 da, I probably wouldn't sit around I sit around all day and get stoned. But so long as we're bridging this gap and learning to be kind. Oh, and then I'm also aware that because I had that shameful little secret, I could never judge people. You know what I'm saying? I was traversing this rather elitist world of the yoga community with this shameful little secret. But the secret is what ultimately started to like, yeah, why I'm having it. And because I'm like, wait a minute, just because you're squeaky clean doesn't make you fucking better than those people partying down the street. Or just because you're teetotal doesn't make, and that's when I started to get fired up around people using their sobriety or people using their squeaky clean, perfect yogic lifestyle to slightly put across that they're a little bit better than everybody else. And that fucking pissed me off. So I got to say that's part of the crutch as well. I'm still a bit pissy. And I do know there's a connection in my control with the crutch of the smoking stuff. So hey, I'm just putting it out there. I'm a work in progress, okay? But I do have a lot of awesome discipline and technique, which I know is serving me. And I know that all my breath work really helps me um to not be pulled under by the smoking, if that makes sense. Like to not let it completely take over in any way, but simply just to um manage it in a conscious way. Divine sight, what is the gross all about? Rochelle, interesting. I really res with that as well. A lot of what I do or did was to understand why others did it. And I think that's fair for a lot of us as well. Tobacco use is a heart protection tool. Ah, okay, got you. Yeah, for sure. And that's part of the bridging of the gap of opening the heart in trust and faith to have good connection. And then once we have that good connection, we're not using this thing to protect ourselves from other people. That makes perfect sense to me. Oh, thank you guys. And here again, we can know them, but until we're in that place where we're really in earnest expressing it and working through it and being like, it doesn't make me a better human being, and blah, 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 then we can acknowledge that. And I could say that's the part of the receiving the more love. Now that I'm open to receiving more love, I can embrace more love, and then probably the crutch of the smoking will dissipate, and then it can just be in celebration and in ceremony, you know? But again, I know the difference because of the alcohol. I know that just like trying really hard to like live a certain way doesn't work for me personally. It had to be a genuine release. You know, the call to alcohol just fell away. And I know that when you continue to do the work, the call for tobacco or the call for cannabis in that isolating way, that can be released fully. But not so long. But at the same time, here I am with my hands in the air, just going. But I'm not. It's not about judging the self where the self is. I'm not here to say I'm going to deny the desire. It's just allowing the desire to act itself out, to run its course. It's like we all know we're going to be in our abusive relationships for as long as we're in them until we harmonize them, right? And violet melon, that's to me what it's all about, the balance, you know? And we do know deep down when we're in balance with something or not. Like, and I've known for years that there's an imbalance there, but I'm not in denial of it, right? And that's something that in a way a lot of us are lucky with these kinds of crutches because you can't really hide them. Not certainly not with our nearest and dearest. Like all of my inner circle are also aware of, you know, some of these rebel type things that I do. And the fact that the more open I've become about it, the more people love me for it. And then the easier it gets, like it makes me want to cry, but like actually the easier it gets to release it because I don't have to protect myself anymore. You know, so I don't have to fucking try to kill myself. It's just one of those, you know? I know we do physically need it. So I don't wanna, like, deny myself of that and make myself feel bad. Yeah, sometimes I smoke because I feel stressed for sure. That's quite a huge trigger is a stress synapse being and then divine sight, love it. Ugh, I've just felt more emotion come up, feel free just to be right. Right. You know, I'm just it's just that. It's that simplicity, but I really what I appreciate about the honesty here is your guys's also inner perspective, which I imagine like is not something that you're talking to lots of people about or even particularly sharing with a lot of people. And so when I hear about other responsible yogi people, healer type people, but that are also engaging in certain behaviors which people would judge, it's amazing to me how, in a weird way, little judgment there is, and yet we're all clearing stuff out and facing that kickback as mindfully as we can. So that has helped me see with a bit more clarity that I can up level the intention with which I'm using. Which is going to be, it's going to be kind of work, it's going to be a challenge, but I that's part of my next phase for sure, because it was my last phase that alcohol bounced out of my reality. And because of where I am in in my life, I'm aware that I'm preparing to release this as well, certainly in the way that I'm using as a survival protective survival tactic. But my consciousness field is aware that like it's like it's just the thing that I'm not, it's the purpose of how it came in and why it came in is not the here now. So I'm like, oh, I don't even need it like that no more. Interesting. So you're just watching that dance and then closing the gap and moving yourself into that. So you guys are helping working on it myself. Awareness and intention. Right, exactly. So it's like the stuff we're working on is all reflected back to each other. And then the more we ease up on each other, the easier it is to use with intention rather than other. Because most of us would say that, and a lot of people did that anyway, and where it's like, yeah, I was 16, 17. I got back from Germany and started smoking. And I started smoking pot and cigarettes around the same time. But weirdly, like the smoking of the cigarettes was a bit of a social pressure thing. Like it was that peer pressure. Like somebody actually was like, "Oh, have a cigarette. Have a cigarette. It feels so good after you have a bong hit." And like these were all really cool rich kids that I was summering with, working at a summer resort in the Muskokas in Northern Ontario. And I had all this like shameful stuff inside, but I was rolling with the rich kids and the cool kids. So I thought I should be cool. So I took that puff of the cigarette and I never looked back. And I remember people be like, "What you smoke?" Because I was like a dancer, and I was always this very like straight edge, like high achieving chica at school. And then yeah, it also, because nobody can maintain that either. Nobody can maintain like the perfectionist bullshit either. So no wonder at some point we fall off that pedestal and end up swinging to promiscuity and sex, drugs, and rock and roll and whatever, because I failed at being a good person, so I might as well fucking go the other way until that damn near kills us. And we're like, wait a minute, what's happening? I better find the middle. Yeah. Divine sight. I often have thought of how bad is that? I'm like, maybe when I get pregnant, I'll want to stop. And but there again, I'm a little bit like, I like noodling with the polarity of this stuff. I'm also quite badass rebel. So there's this other part of me that is like, does it really kill us though? And how powerful are we really? Like, how powerful is my consciousness field to blast out any damage, any density, any potential harm that any external factor could have on me? How powerful am I to burn through all of that and still exist in my light body? I do believe that's the power of the Christ. I literally, in my depth of knowingness, believe that we can shine down any corrupted aspect in the here now presence, that we can be the divine. It's the light body. It's the fact that we completely detach from this 3D paradigm of a matrix, flesh, blood, lowly system. We are the created and the creator. So how is it that anything could actually do damage unless we extended our power and gave it to it? So I think for a lot of us, we're like noodling. Word. 2007, interesting, Cat Aaron Davis, because that is the year that the UK went smoke free as well. And I imagine we have these big collective shifts around it. And here's my thing about so there's, in my awareness anyway, there is a little bit of a hierarchy. So like SIGs, like factory fags in my beingness are more toxic. They are more uh toxic than tobacco. as in different countries as well. You can get natural tobacco and you can get tobacco BD cigarettes, and those are my favorite. BD cigarettes are just basically like hand rolled cigarettes made in India that are rolled in tobacco leaf. So it's literally just like pure, and they smell different, as in they don't leave that same kind of stale smoke smell on your clothes and walls and whatnot. And I don't know, they just don't have the same addictive nature to them. That that kind of factory, like that's not how I would say myself or a lot of we don't smoke like that. It's like a like eating mindfully. Smoking mindfully is a different kind of experience as well, right? So, natural tobacco would have a more synergistic relationship with the body, no different than processed food versus real food, whole food. Natural food, our body translates and processes that stuff way better than the processed food. The processed food our body perceives as toxicity. So, processed tobacco cigarette, also, our body is a little bit more like toxic, toxic, toxic versus a natural herb or smell or something our body can ingest and process a lot more comfortably. Right, Lori. That's they put the icky things to get us hooked. Yeah. I.e., all the colorful sugar infused cereals and candies that they put in the aisles to get kids to throw tantrums to get. I remember having a conversation about addiction stuff with a friend and being like how everyone is programmed. My generation will res with this, but we were all programmed to believe that weed was this gateway drug. And I remember having a conversation like 10 years ago, maybe, with a group of guys, and we were somehow talking about this because I've always been a bit of a stoner, so I would have been the one getting stoned while they were drinking alcohol. And they were all kind of like, why don't you drink, why don't you like drinking and whatnot, and I just trying to explain that and have that conversation, and then the whole gateway thing came up, and then one of them piped up and was like, no way, man, sugar, white refined sugar is the gateway, and young children are getting hooked on sugar from a very young age. And so by the time they're 6 or 7, or certainly by the time they're going through puberty, they're already desensitized to their own connection because they've been being spiked. They've been their central nervous system has been being jacked up. Not to mention the amount of desensitization on here, and then video games and a school system which tells them that they're not good enough. So you can see the concoction, and then we wonder why suicide is so rife, you know? Well, and I think, here's interesting. So I looked down at that way's comment, smoking cigarettes is nervous energy. Yeah, for sure. There's anger sometimes interwoven in there. At the same time, that comment made me realize that, and there again, we all have a unique relationship with all substance. I think us trying to pretend we know what it's like for somebody else, even though we might love and have resonance and da 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 da, like, for you, yeah, smoking cigarettes is nervous energy. For someone else, smoking cigarettes might be anger. For someone else, smoking cigarettes might be ease. For someone else, smoking cigarettes might be absolute blissful joy. It's like, yeah, gateway. Sugar is gateway. Agreed. Bigger, better, faster, more. Right. Get everyone's nervous system jacked up. And they are poor babies. You see little babies eating Haribo candies, and then that at home they're eating processed or frozen food that's microwaved. It all kind of makes sense. You're like, yeah, anyway. Sugar dumbs down too. Well, for sure, Cat, because anything that like frazzles us is 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 dumbing us down. So the polarity there, as in, it's like the classic, what's the most prescribed thing from a doctor? Get some rest. So if we're constantly being triggered and frazzled, we're never at rest. But when we're never at rest, we're not present, which means we're not whole, which means we're very easy to control. And that's how it all works, is that they're really, and that's why those of us here, why I say with as much humility and grace as possible, we are the leaders of humanity and we're here to set humanity free because we can see what's going on and enough is enough. And we know the truth of the power that we are, regardless of what it looks like. We're just as, in fact, far more powerful than that control energy. So all we need to do is continue to stay it down. Oh, interesting, tree hugger. Oh, and this is why I love being able to have such open-hearted conversations, is because you guys have loads of wisdom that helps me reflect back mine. That then I'm like, oh, fucking sweet. 420. Hello, rebalances. So tree huggers awareness is saying it rebalances the sugar adrenaline surge. So in doubt, disconnected, you can tell by how it is smoked by the smoker. Totally divine sight. It's like the same thing about, you can tell somebody's habitual train of thought by the expressions on their face, especially people of a certain age, right? Like you can feel in to the kind of life they lived and the kind of thoughts they've thought over and over again because of the wrinkle lines, for example, right? So the same, but then, oh my gosh, that obviously connects to everything. You can tell by the way someone eats their food. You can tell by the way someone puts their clothes on. You can tell by the way somebody smiles. You can tell, right? By the way we hold our phone, how engaged we are. By the way we put our makeup on. By the way I smoke my cigarette. By the way, right? Oh my God, that's just it. I do know this to be true. It's sacred love, divine connection infused in all that we do. And if I wanna love myself in having a cigarette, I'm gonna love myself in having a cigarette, and I'm gonna trust and believe and know in my divine connection to all that is good, that that's good for me, because fuck the rest. You know? Fuck the world that's trying to control, manipulate, and dominate. I'd rather die young having smoked too many cigarettes than abide by a world that thinks it's okay to oppress the masses, that feels it's okay to manipulate people's minds. So fuck them all. And at the same time, love myself because I'm going to need as much love, hot love vibration as possible to transmute the energy of the cigarette. But hey ho, you know, we all doing our best here. We all doing our best here for sure. Just a dream, and I still like it. Fifth, literally, exact same thing, probably in the last like day or two. I'm like, but I still like it. And it is a dream. And it's my dream. So fuck it. And here is the weirdest thing. I don't know if you guys also find this weird paradox and polarity, but the more I accept it, the less I do it. But days where I'm finding a little less acceptance, or getting into that trap of like, I really need to like nip this in the bud. I really need to detox and cleanse and get rid of this horrible, nasty habit. I'm like smoking every 5 minutes. No, but it's never been like that for me. But finding myself like, you know? Whereas the days where it's just not even a consideration or a thing, or I'm just in the mega hot love flow, it's nothing. And then it's like the food, the non-attachment to the food, it's the same, because then you go off and you're like, oh, I don't even need that. I'm not even hungry for that. I don't want it. I don't need it. And so it's really interesting those days. And I'm really, really noticing that over these last few months of looking at these different patterns. I mean, like, oh, weird. The days where I'm just like on flow and really happy and da 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 da, it doesn't come into my awareness until it does. And I'm like, oh, weird. I like haven't smoked today. But in fairness, that's a really nice place to get to. And I think it takes a little bit of practice and discernment and commitment to even get into those spaces. So, you give yourself a little round of applause on your good days, and then on your bad days, you're like, ah, fuck it. I broke the chain. I had too many smokes. But I gotta say as well, I'm really on the front of like, go for the natural stuff, go for for that, because like we all know, in a sense, we're like here to trigger each other. I think a lot of us would have that as well. Like when we do things, we're like, why am I even doing this? I don't even like enjoy it or want to do it. And yeah, there's the habitual sense of it. But when you're in this state of, yeah, oneness and in service to the world, you're a bit like, why God? Why do I still have this fucking weird desire? And then as I sit here talking with you guys, well, clearly we all have we can share and learn from each other. We can ease up. We can let ourselves off the hook for, I don't know, get, for getting too stoned, for having one too many drinks of whatever, it's like, just reminds me of like, see, the one of the biggest issues is just the fact that we're so gosh darn hard on ourselves and one another. It's like you have an off day. What's wrong? Why are you having an off day? Oh God, you know? And like, because we're all starting, because everybody's working so damn hard to keep up a facade that isn't real. And then everybody thinks that they're meant to try to keep it up. So then they shun you if you're not in that facade. It's just a very bizarre thing. I used to paint out of a bucket. Cat, I love that. Fifth, I'm kind of there with you. Yeah, my purpose is to make everybody feel every emotion. Oh, for sure, for sure. This is what I mean about the weird humbling of like the leaders of the new paradigm, because it's completely like leadership looks nothing like old paradigm leadership. And so many of us, I think, have been in it for so long that it's weird having it all manifest decades later. And as in, yeah, making itself manifest and known, be like, oh shit, oh great, now it's finally happening. I'm exhausted, but that's cool. Let's keep going. So I have no doubt that you are uh my reflectors and assisters in me continuing to evolve myself, because there's plenty that I know that I can work on, and I look forward to it. I just don't want somebody to try to control me or make me feel bad about it, because that's often people do. They have their own little resentments, but they can't be honest about their resentments. And so they just try to fix you and all your problems. And I'm like, sorry, I don't want to have fixing. I want to attain mastery so that I am the self regenesis, so that we are just the divine healed state, so that we don't need any of this stuff. I'm like, I think that's possible. And in fact, I don't think it, I just know it. Oh man. Okay. So I don't, it's just fellow triggers. Hilarious. Oh my geez. I just love you. Right. All for self. So it's like we're all just here as an example. And it's, to me, the energetic depth of non-judgment, forgiveness, or non-judgment beyond all everything else. So the non-judgment piece has to be the transparency holder of space beyond the form and the technique and the rights and the wrongs and the exactly what dimension and how many lifetimes have you been here and like, that when we get too much in the head about it. And yet it's not to say that there isn't stuff coming through that needs to be channeled and needs to be shared on an intellectual level for people, because everyone is coming at this from a different angle. Oh, hi, chic équilibre. Comment ça va, mon ami? Divine unconditionally first, 100%. That's the polarity. We can only hold space for other when we have held space for self. Yeah, yeah, right? I was thinking that as well. Because that's why else? And I don't think austerity is particularly evolved. I just think austerity is more control and domination, i.e., dogma, i.e., this is exactly the right way to live. Okay, says who? And I think that's questionable. I think we can all. Okay, I think that's when I start doing really weird shit like that. That's me being like, I think I can go now. I think it's been almost 3 hours. You guys, go to sleep. I'm gonna start the day. Gobbledygook. Gobbledygook, you guys. So now that I am pure delirium, I'm gonna shoot off and start my day. um, but you know how much love is here for you, and I'm so thankful for you guys. Plus, you guys are helping me add so much value in just having these long talks, and I feel that for the random people in the world who at some point on their timeline will come across these shares, that they will also find value in our shared noodling space of, according to Michelle, a bunch of ascended masters. What? What? Like, we'll say that with as much humility and grace as possible, but let's own it. And who cares if we have off days? In truth, all of humanity are masters of self. But the sin, the ultimate sin, is the fact they got disconnected and denied the self. Now we have all of this denied aspect, fearing, mongering us, but we have to pull it back into the regenesis, the flame of truth. Um, Exactly, Lori. Lori, that is really relevant for any of us here. I'm just treating, so a lot of us treat others really lovely. So that's what we're doing now. For all of our shitty depression and all of our shitty smoking patterns or whatever, and they're not shitty, they just are. But the things that we know in our own self that we're wanting to up level and address and work through, put it out there. Big group hug. I Yeah, oh my gosh, and it's so funny because it's Friday night for you guys. Happy solstice, everybody! There again. Oh, what is happening, you guys? And I know I'm joking, and this is a little bit hilarious, right? Yeah, for sure. I'm reading a message. Um, I in like 2 or 3 shares have talked about this weird urge to like it must be some hippie protest thing, but just then I had the urge to like lift my top and be like, rah! And I'm like, no, keep your clothes on. And I'm not even that type of girl. Like even in my party girl days, I was never the one to get up on a table and get naked. I had way too much body shame for that. um I don't know what it is, but I think that the hug, and then I'm like, hug, meh, and maybe that's beautiful. I just feel really comfortable with you guys. Like we were the kids in the neighborhood who would be taking baths together. Okay, but don't take that in the wrong way. You know what I mean, right, guys? Like it's nothing but hot love, vibration, purity, and innocence. No weird corrupted. Anyway, you guys, I'm gonna shoot off. It's been almost 3 hours. I have the utmost love and respect for all of you, and I'm so grateful for you, and I'm so in love with you all. Booby bumps, and it's getting a little sexuality. But I love you, and I'm really, really, really. Here's the thing, isn't it nice to get to a place where you really don't have much at all, but you're really damn grateful at the same time, and you genuinely love the people in your life, and even you genuinely love the people that are not in your life or the people that maybe did you wrong, but like you're good. God, it's been a journey, but boy oh boy am I thankful, every day thankful. And it's really nice. It's really nice to get it and then to start enjoying the journey like Abraham talks about. Of like, I'm just happy to be alive. And even the days that are really tough and intense emotionally, I'm still happy to be alive. And I'm even happier as a woman in this world because you guys showed up, to reflect back, like, we're happy you're alive too. I'm happy that you're alive too. Like, good, because a lot of us have felt like we weren't allowed to be alive. So it's like, really good. Okay, guys, I love you. Virtual hugs. Virtual hugs. Hot love vibration across the niche, you guys, and I'll see you more soon. Paul will be in touch. Julie will chat. Rochelle, Violet, Tree Hugger, Elf, Divine Sight, Scott, Fifth, just all of you. Tree Hugger. It keeps going, doesn't it? I'm like, it's one of those of like you have to list off. Kat, Rochelle, all of you, all of you. I have Flying Lotus. That's a new E. Have I seen you here? That way, Abil. Oh, Gigi, of course, we can't forget the Gigi, can we? Paul. Abil Singe. I feel like I know you maybe from Facebook. Bill, I feel like we've had a small exchange around veganism. Chic équilibre! Lori! Pardon me, I think there was like an A at some point. Anyway, Susanna! How could I forget all the regulars? Anyway, you guys, love you long time. I'll speak to you real soon. Have an awesome night. Happy solstice, you guys. Peace out.